posición cuando está arriba, bien vamos. Pero como le doy por cerrar la posición cuando está abajo, han perdido 4 subidas y encima cierran en el mismo precio o más abajo del que han entrado. Chismes y tonterías las menos posible. Guíense ustedes por los que sabemos y demostramos que sabemos. No se le ocurra preguntar al director de la banca porque no tienen ni idea.
Carlos, no tenemos recomendaciones, ¿no?, para el miércoles.
No.
Pues te despido así, Carlos Las Viñas, CML Bolsa, un placer compartir contigo este rato.
Adiós a todos.
Y nos vamos a la señal que nos llega en directo, comparecencia del presidente electo de Estados Unidos, el republicano Donald Trump.
Yoshi-san, Masa runs one of the largest companies in Japan and among the most successful investment and technology companies anywhere in the world, one of the most successful investors in the world. And we've just concluded a very productive meeting, and today I'm thrilled to announce that SoftBank will be investing $100 billion in America, creating 100,000 American jobs at a minimum. And he's doing this because he feels very optimistic about our country since the election. And many other people are also coming in with tremendous amounts of money. You probably noticed that a poll was just taken. It's business is literally in 39 years, there's been nothing like it. It's been the biggest increase. Small business owners gave it a 41% jump. It's the biggest jump that we've had in 39 years. And nobody's ever seen anything like it. And it's just, they're very optimistic. This historic investment is a monumental demonstration of confidence in America's future, and it will help ensure that artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, and other industries of tomorrow are built, created, and grown right here in the USA. One of the beautiful things about Masa is he's very much involved with emerging technology, probably knows it maybe better than almost anybody. So it's a great honor. And some of you remember after the 2016 election, also SoftBank committed to invest $50 billion in our country, and they did. And I'm very pleased to say that they kept that promise in every way, shape, and form. And now they're looking to do 100. And I've looked at their books. They do have the possibility of doing more. I'm going to ask them to do a little bit more. But first, I'm going to ask him to speak and just to say a few words. Masa, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very, very excited. I would really like to celebrate the great victory of President Trump. And my confidence level to the economy of the United States has tremendously increased with his victory. So because of that, I'm now excited to commit this $100 billion and 100,000 jobs into the United States. This is double of last time, as President Trump said. Because I say, oh, President Trump is a double down president. I'm going to have to double down, $100 billion and 100,000 jobs. This is, my confidence level, because that has doubled down. So I am truly excited to make this happen. And of course, business is important, technology is important. But one more thing I'm really hoping is that this President Trump would make the world, bring the world into peace again. That's my additional hope. And I think he will actually make it happen. So anyway, I'm excited to go, and we were discussing, and President Trump said, Masa, double down is not enough. Maybe, go for more, right?
That's all right. I'm going to ask him right now. Would you make it $200 billion instead of He can actually, believe it or not, he can actually afford to do that. Would you do that?
Well, my promise is 100, but he's now asking to do more. I think with your leadership, my partnership with you, with your support, I will try to make it happen.
All right, 200. He'll make it. 200 million investment.
He is a great negotiator.
He's a brilliant guy and did an unbelievable job, and the people of Japan and all over the world are very proud of him. They have tremendous respect for him. So when he does what he just did, and I would be surprised if it didn't go to 2. When you say you'll try, I know you'll do it.
I will really try. And I need your support, though.
You'll have my support.
All right.
You'll have our country's support.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you, Masa.
Fantastic.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank
Do
you.
you want to say hello to the people of Japan who are all watching?
Well, I'm sure our people in Japan are proud to make the partnership of U.S. and Japan be stronger. And I'm very excited to make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Masa.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you. It's amazing. It's a great gentleman, a great leader and a great investor. So to have that offer made, and we have so many companies coming in now that will be announcing or that will announce themselves. We don't have to be with them to do it, but they'll be announcing. And as I said, small business optimism took a 41-point jump. 41 points. It went up 41 points. That's unheard of. And that's the biggest they think in recorded history, but they know at least a minimum of 39 years. So that's great. But on behalf of the American people, I want to thank Masa for his faith in what's happening with our country and what's happening with the world. There's a whole light over the entire world. Many people, some reporters, and speaking to them, they said, it actually is true. A couple of them are not necessarily friends of mine, but they said it is actually true that there's a light shining over the world. We're trying to help very strongly in getting the hostages back, as you know, with Israel and the Middle East. We're working very much on that. We're trying to get the war stopped, that horrible war that's going on in Ukraine, with Russia, Ukraine. We're going to, we've got a little progress. It's a tough one. It's a nasty one. It's nasty. People are being killed at levels that nobody's ever seen. It's very level fields, and the only thing that stops a bullet is a body, a human body. And the number of soldiers that are being killed on both sides is astronomical. I've never seen anything like that. And rapidly, I get reports every week, and it's not even, it's like just they're going down. Nobody's seen anything like it. It's a very flat surface, a very flat land. That's why it's great farming land. It's the breadbasket for the world, actually, but it's very flat, and there's nothing to stop a bullet but a body. There's no protection, no nothing, and it's what's happening there is far worse than people are reporting for both sides. So we're going to do our best, and we've been doing our best, and we'll see what happens. But since the election, I've been working every day to put the world at ease a little bit, to get rid of the wars. We had no wars when I left office, and now it's the whole world is blowing up. But there's great optimism, and you saw that by SoftBank. Starting on day one, we'll implement a rapid series of bold reforms to restore our nation to full prosperity. We're going to go full prosperity and to build the greatest economy the world has ever seen, just as we had just a short time ago. We had it in my term. We had the greatest economy that the world had seen. We were blowing away everybody. Our country was doubling up on China, doubling up on everybody, and everybody knows it. And then we had to slow it down with COVID, unfortunately, at the end. But even then, I gave it back with a substantial increase of the stock market, bigger than it was pre-COVID. So it was pretty amazing. Already preparations are underway to slash massive numbers of job-killing regulations, eliminating 10 old regulations for every new one. You put a new regulation on, you have to get rid of 10, and we'll be able to do it. And that was about the percentage we had. We cut more regulations than any president has ever cut by far, actually, by approximately 5 times. Some of those regulations, unfortunately, were put back on, but we'll catch up very quickly. We'll catch up with it. One of the things I'd like to ask the Biden administration, as you probably heard, there are 2 events that took place. We're talking about a friendly takeover, a friendly transition, as they like to say. This is a friendly transition, and it is, but there are two events that took place that I think are very terrible. One is that if people don't come back to work, come back into the office, they're going to be dismissed. And somebody in the Biden administration gave a 5-year waiver of that so that for 5 years, people don't have to come back into the office. It involved 49,000 people. For 5 years, they don't have to go. They just signed this thing. It's ridiculous. So it was like a gift to a union, and we're going to obviously be in court to stop it. The other thing is really terrible. We spent a tremendous amount of money on building the wall. The wall was designed specifically by the Border Patrol because it's very hard to climb. They need to have see-through. They need it to be steel because you can't cut. It's very powerful steel. It's very hard steel. It's a special type of steel, but very, very hard to cut. Inside the steel, as you know, we pour concrete, and that's a grade 10 concrete, which is a very strong concrete, very as though you were building about a 60-story building. It's very powerful concrete. They've made tremendous technology advances in the word concrete. Who would think that? But I know that from the construction industry. Today, what you can do with concrete is incredible. So we have a very strong concrete. And then we have a rebar. We put rebar inside the concrete, and the rebar likewise is very hard to cut. So it's a very expensive process, very expensive wall. And then we put a anti-climb plate on the top. You saw that. And I didn't like the look of it. But then when I watched, we had people testing. We had mountain climbers actually testing. And they were not able to get over the anti-climb plate. So I said, all right, I guess we're going to put it on. That plate on top, which I never loved the look of it, but it works so unbelievably well. You have to do it. So we spent a lot of money on building it, and we have hundreds of miles that we put up. A lot of people don't realize, but we did 571 miles of wall. That's why we had such good records, in addition to the fact that Mexico helped us with their military. They kept people out, and they were actually very good under the past leader. But now we ordered an additional 200 miles of wall. It's very expensive. And now it's about double the price of what it would have been 6 years ago. And the administration is trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, knowing that we're getting ready to put it up. And what they're doing is really an act. It's almost a criminal act. They know we're going to use it. And if we don't have it, we're going to have to rebuild it. And it'll cost double what it cost years ago. And that's hundreds of millions of dollars, because you're talking about a lot of wall. I built much more than I said I was going to build. But then after it was built, I said, you know, we can do some more, because it's sort of like water, people flow through, and that will pretty much really take care of it. And what happened is they just, as you see, they're trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar. And that's really, that has nothing to do with a smooth transition. That has to do with people really trying to stop our nation. And all it means really is that we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars more, not even talking about the time. The time would be pretty long, but we'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars more on building the same wall that we already have. And people have already come back to us that have deals at 5 cents and 4 cents, and one guy at 3 cents on the dollar. And they offered to sell it back to us at more money than it costs us to build substantially. Can you believe it? So they make a deal with the United States to buy it for pennies. And then they call us and they say, do you want to buy it back? We'll sell it back to you for hundreds of dollars a foot. Hundreds of dollars, from pennies to hundreds of dollars a foot. And we can't let this take place. Now we're going to go. I spoke with the Attorney General of Texas. I spoke to the senators of Texas. I spoke to a lot of people, and hopefully they'll be able to stop. We're going to be, having a restraining order. But just think about how ridiculous it is. And this is just people that don't want this country to succeed. And this has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. This has to do with common sense. We won on common sense, and this is maybe one of the most egregious examples I've seen. So the people that are buying it or trying to buy it are trying to make a deal with us to sell it back at hundreds of times more than we paid. And this is all because the Democrats. So I'm asking today Joe Biden to please stop selling the wall. We're going to use that to create a strong barrier. And it worked. That's why our numbers were so good. It really worked, and it worked well. And it's very expensive to do. And I'm asking Joe Biden to stop his people from giving it away. It's something that people can't even believe is happening. So hopefully Joe will be able to stop it. We'll soon unleash American energy, and this will be done at levels not seen before, issuing quick approvals for pipelines, drilling, and other infrastructure. It'll be clean energy, and we'll bring in the price of electricity, and we're going to bring it down fast. We're also going to create clean coal. Clean coal is something that has really taken over. We have coal that will last for over 1,000 years. We have so much coal, and with a process, it becomes clean coal. It's very powerful energy, unlike wind. It's very, very powerful, and we're going to be doing a lot of clean coal for the people of West Virginia and others, Wyoming, so many states. We have great states, and they'll be happy to hear it. But we're going to be very much into clean coal. I don't ever use the word coal. I use the word clean coal. And I'll keep my promise to pass historic tax cuts for American families, workers, and businesses that create jobs in America. As you know, we're giving tax cuts if they do it here. We brought it down from 44%, 42%. In some cases, it was 39%. We brought it all the way down to 21%. And now we're bringing it down to 15%, but only if they make their product, their car, or whatever they're doing in the United States and the U.S. And people are thrilled. I've had the smartest people on Wall Street call me. They said, "Where'd you get that idea?" And it doesn't seem that complicated, right? But it's nobody. It's like the paperclip. Nobody ever thought of it. One guy thought of it. Everybody looked at it. They said, "Wow, that was a good idea. Why didn't I think of it?" But we're bringing it down 6 more points, and that will put us really at the best level we've ever had for bringing in business. We've never been down to that level. We'll be among the lowest taxed states, and a lot of businesses are going to come in. Between that and our taxing and tariff policies, we're going to have business like nobody's ever seen in this country before. That's why we're, having a 41-year record in optimism from small businesses and big businesses. And I'll keep my promise to pass historic tax cuts for families, workers, and businesses that create jobs in America. Any business that invests $1 billion or more in the United States will be eligible for fully expedited permits and approvals, including environmental approvals from the federal government. So when companies come in, if they're going to invest $1 billion or more, there'll be many of them, and they'll go into Detroit, and they'll go into a lot of places where we want them. You saw how well I did with the auto workers. We did unbelievably. You saw how well we did with the Teamsters, and also the non-union were record 98%, 97%. Nobody's ever got numbers like that, because we're bringing business back, and they're all coming back. We lost them over years of stupidity, I call it. I call it the years of stupidity, the decades of stupidity. Through the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk has been working very hard with various people, including Vivek. We'll going to eliminate hundreds of billions of dollars of waste and fraud. And I can only tell you, I'll give you a little early report, they're finding things that you wouldn't even believe. So we're looking to save maybe $2 trillion, and it'll have no impact. Actually, it'll make life better, but it'll have no impact on people. It's not like we will never cut Social Security or things like that. It's just waste, fraud, and abuse. And we'll immediately restore the sovereign borders of the United States and stop illegal immigration, which is costing us, I believe, trillions of dollars a year. I think it's a cost that nobody's ever seen anything like it. I don't know how can you be satisfied releasing prisoners into the United States. Think of this. You're releasing prisoners from jails all over the world, not just in South America. From the Congo, I would talk about it all the time. They're a very big sender of people. But from all over the world, they're sending prisoners out of their jails. Some of their jails are empty, and they will be empty soon if this ever continued. I spoke with the president of Mexico, and as you know, I spoke with Justin Trudeau of Canada, and we told them It's not fair, not right. You can't let these people come into our country. And they understand they're very much on notice, and they're going to have to stop this from happening. They're going to have to stop it. We lose a lot of money to Mexico. We lose a lot of money to Canada, tremendous amount. We're subsidizing Canada. We're subsidizing Mexico. That can't go on. And I get along with the people of Mexico and Canada very well, but we can't let that happen. Why are we supporting and giving other countries hundreds of billions of dollars? It's not fair. It's not right. And the people of Mexico and Canada fully understand that. We've talked about it before, but now we're doing something about it. We started, and then we had to fix the COVID situation, and that's what we did. But now we're doing it. We're doing it from the beginning. Howard will be largely in charge. We'll be working on it together. Howard's terrific. He's done a fantastic job, and he's really helped us a lot with transition. I think we have fantastic people coming in. So all of these policies will help us rapidly defeat inflation, create millions of new jobs, and put money in the pockets of the hardworking families of our country, pay off debt. We're going to be paying off a tremendous amount of debt. We're $36 trillion. You don't want to be there. And we're going to be using a lot of the money that we make. We're going to be opening up a lot of businesses are going to be pouring in because of our tax policy. And we're going to use the money that we made to pay off debt and to reduce taxes. We're going to further reduce taxes. If you remember when we reduced them last time, that brought a tremendous amount. We brought it down to 21%, and that was the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. And nobody ever thought this would happen, but this is what's supposed to happen. We actually ended up taking in more revenue at 21 than we did at 40%, which was pretty amazing. But this will be the most exciting and successful period of reform and renewal in all of American history, maybe of global history. The golden age of America, I call it. It's begun. So it's the golden age of America, and that's what it's going to be. And we hope we don't have any intervening problems, because things happen. Like out of nowhere came the China virus. Out of nowhere came other things. We don't want to have, when I left, we had no wars. We had no problems. The Middle East was good. We did the Abraham Accords. We did things that nobody thought were even possible. But think of it, 4 years ago, we had no wars. You didn't have Russia going into Ukraine. They wouldn't have done it. They weren't even thinking about it. When they saw what happened in Afghanistan, I think they gave them an idea, but they wouldn't have done it. They would have never gone. President Putin would have never gone in. And now you look at all those people are dead. All those cities are destroyed. It's nice to say they want their land back, but the cities are largely destroyed. They've left Kiev because probably maybe they want to use it or occupy it, but they haven't done it. They've done a lot of damage, but relatively compared to the other cities, very little. But many of those cities are gone. Those beautiful towers, those beautiful buildings that they had are now laying on their sides, destroyed, totally destroyed. The turrets and all of the magnificent 1,000-year-old, 2,000-year-old structures that were very strong are blown to smithereens. You look at some of those cities and not one building standing. So, when you say take over the country, take over what? Take over what? That's a 100-year rebuild. Take 100 years to rebuild it, and you can never have it the way it was. What a shame. It should have never happened. It would have never happened. If I were president, that war would have never happened. Nor would Israel have happened with the attack on Israel. So we're inheriting big challenges at home and all over the world. Again, we had no wars. We had no problems. We had no inflation. We had it less than 1%. A perfect number. And then we had inflation, the likes of which I don't believe the country's ever seen inflation like that. They say 38 years. I don't know. I think it's probably ever, but we're going to take care of all of it. We're going to get the prices down by energy. The energy is going to come in. We have more energy than anybody else. We're going to use it. We don't have to buy energy from Venezuela when we have 50 times more than they do. It's just insane what we're doing. So we will not rest until America is richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. And we have a big head start. Last time we didn't. And last time We didn't know the people. We didn't know a lot of things. But by the time we got it up and going, it was incredible. Again, we built the greatest economy in history for that period of time. And we'll do it again, I believe, substantially more so, because we understand, number one, the people of Washington. I know them. I didn't know any of them virtually. I relied on other people for recommendations. Some were very good recommendations. We had some great people. Bob Lighthizer, I thought was great. We had a lot of great people. And but we had some people that I wouldn't have used in retrospect, and now I know them better than anybody, better than they know themselves. So once again, I'd like to thank Masa for what he's done with that investment, which will end up being $200 billion, I believe. But I just want to thank him. He's just an outstanding man. When you have that kind of brain power wanting to invest in this country, and that's money that he can't invest elsewhere. So that's a big investment, but makes me feel very good. Makes me feel that we're absolutely on the right track. So thank you, Tomasa. And we'll take a couple of questions. Yeah, Jeff.
Can you tell us what you said to Prime Minister Netanyahu in your call on Saturday?
Yeah.
And have you spoken to President Putin since your election?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the Putin question, but I will comment on Bibi. We had a very good talk. We discussed what is going to happen, and I'll be very available on January 20th, and we'll see. As you know, I gave warning that if these hostages aren't back home by that date, all hell's going to break out, and very strong. But we generally just discussed, I asked him, where are things? Mike Waltz they're doing a great job, by the way. Everybody is very happy. I think he's doing a fantastic job. But he was very much involved in the call. But it was a recap call more than anything else.
President Trump, how do you plan to stop the ban on TikTok next month?
Who?
How do you plan to stop the ban on TikTok next month?
We'll take a look at TikTok. You know, I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok had something to do with that. Now, Joe Rogan did, and some of the other people that were recommended by my son Barron, he knew names. I said, who is that? Tell me, who's that? Dad, you got to be kidding. I can't believe you don't know. And I did those interviews, and it was actually sort of cute. Do you want to know the truth? But we did them, and that had an impact. But TikTok had an impact, and so we're taking a look at it. But, you know, we won youth. Republicans are always 30 points down in youth. I don't know why, but we ended up finishing. There was one poll that showed us down about 30. We were 35 or 36 points up with young people. So I have a little bit of a warm spot in my heart, I'll be honest. Yes,
President, are you entertaining the idea of preemptive strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities? Against Iran's nuclear facilities?
Well, I can't tell you that. I mean, it's a wonderful question, but am I going to do preemptive strikes? Why would I say that? Can you imagine if I said yes or no? You'd say, that was strange that he answered that way. Am I going to do preemptive strikes on Iran? Is that a serious question? How could I answer a question like that? Say it.
Would you be in support of Israeli strikes on Iran's?
How could I tell you a thing like that now? It's just so, you don't talk about that before something may or may not happen. You know, just, I don't want to insult you. I just think it's just not something that I would ever answer having to do with there or any other place in the world.
President Trump. Time magazine interview. Can I ask, just clearly, do you believe there's a connection between vaccines and autism? Do you believe there's a link?
Well, I don't look. Right now, you have some very brilliant people looking at it. I had dinner the other night with the head of Pfizer, the head of Eli Lilly, and RFK, as you know, and Oz. And we had, and other people within the administration that are involved in the medical. And we're looking to find out, you know, if you look at autism, so 30 years ago, I've heard numbers of like 1 in 200,000, 1 in 100,000. And now I'm hearing numbers of 1 in 100. So something's wrong. There's something wrong. And we're going to find out about it.
What about the president?
One more. Can I get your Can I follow up on Robert Kennedy? He's on the Hill today. He's meeting with senators. What do you say to people who are worried that his views on vaccines will translate into policies that will make their kids less safe?
No, I think he's going to be much less radical than you would think. I think he's got a very open mind, or I wouldn't have put him there. He's going to be very much less radical. But there are problems. I mean, we don't do as well as a lot of other nations, and those nations use nothing. And we're going to find out what those problems are. And another thing that came up, the dinner was fascinating because I had Bobby and I had, again, the head of Pfizer. You know who that is. He's a highly respected man who has run an incredible company. Likewise with Lilly, the top two people. And we had the head of the industry also. So all companies were represented. And I said, let's have it out now a little bit. And you know what came out of that meeting is that we're paying far too much because we're paying much more than other countries. And we have laws that make it impossible to reduce. And we have a thing called the middleman. You know the middleman, right? The horrible middleman that makes more money, frankly, than the drug companies. And they don't do anything except they're a middleman. We're going to knock out the middleman. I'm going to be very unpopular after that statement.
Mr. President,
I don't know who these middlemen are, but they are rich as hell. And we're going to knock out the middlemen. We're going to get drug costs down at levels that nobody has ever seen before. And that really, I tell you, we spent more time talking about that with Bobby and with the executives and Oz, all of them. We spent more time talking about that than anything else.
Mr. President,
Thanks, President Trump. What about the polio vaccine?
Well, I'm a big believer in it. And I think everything should be looked at, but I'm a big believer in the polio vaccine, the Salk vaccine.
Do you think schools should mandate vaccines? Do you think schools should mandate vaccines?
I don't like mandates. I'm not a big mandate person. So, you know, I was against mandates. Mostly Democrat governors did the mandates, and they did a very poor thing. It was, you know, in retrospect, they made a big mistake having to do with the education of children. You know, they lost like a year or 2 years of their lives. The mandate was a bad thing. I was against the mandate.
So is that something you'd want to?
Mr. President,
Yes, please.
do you expect Ron DeSantis to appoint Laura Trump to Senator Marco Rubio's seat?
No, I don't. I probably don't, but I don't know. Ron's doing a good job. That's his choice. Nothing to do with me. Laura's unbelievable. I mean, she was incredible. The job she did at the RNC as chairman, along with Michael Whatley, the combination. But I can just speak for Laura. She is so highly respected by women. I mean, even her workout routines are through the roof. She lifts 150 pounds. I don't know how the hell she does it. She's a bad example for men and women sports because I wouldn't be able to beat her, I don't believe. I'd try like hell. But no, she's an incredible woman. And, you know, it's funny. People oftentimes talk about nepotism. I never had, when I put her there, people said, how did you get her to do it? You know, she could have run for the Senate in North Carolina. Ted Budd would be the first to say, and he wouldn't have run. Nobody would have run. And she just said, no, I want to really focus on my children. When the election, and my family, she has a great family. When the election started getting closer, I asked her, would she go to Washington and work on the, you know, as chairman of the committee along with Michael Whatley. And they did such an unbelievable job, especially on cheating. They stopped it, or at least they stymied it. Too big to rig. And we won in a landslide. You know, we won tremendously. She did an amazing job. Now Ron is going to have to make, because Marco has been really a star already, and we haven't started, but you know, we see signs of from some people, or very early, we see signs of stardom, and Marco has done incredibly. He's sort of born for it. It was such an easy decision. The Marco decision was such an easy, but he leaves a vacancy in Florida, and Ron's going to have to make that decision, and he'll make the right decision. I also know that Laura's got so many other things. I mean, she's got so many other things. People want her to be on television. They want to give her contracts. You know, her predominant thought is our country and her family. Those are her thoughts. But she's got so many other things that she's talking about.
Mr. President.
He'll make the right decision.
Mr. President.
Should senators who oppose your nominees, your cabinet nominees, should they be primary?
if they are unreasonable, I'll give you a different answer, an answer that you'll be shocked to hear. If they're unreasonable, if they're opposing somebody for political reasons or stupid reasons, I would say has nothing to do with me. I would say they probably would be primaried. But if they're reasonable, fair, and really disagree with something or somebody, I could see that happening. But I do believe that if they're I think we have great people. I think we have a great group of people. Pam has been unbelievably received. You take a look, Pam Bondi. So many have been just unbelievably received. I think Pete Hegseth is making tremendous strides over the last week. He's going to be great. Look, he went to Princeton, he went to Harvard, he was a great student there, but he really was, from the first day I met him, all he wanted to talk about was military. He's just a military guy. I think it's a natural. This was my idea. And, you know, Pete Hegseth gave up a lot because he was going big places in Fox, big places, a lot of money. And he didn't even hesitate. When I said, do you want to do this? He said, absolutely. I said, you know, if it doesn't work out, you'll never have the opportunity that you have right now in terms of the world of entertainment or business, whatever you want to call it. You'll never have that opportunity again. In fact, it could be just the opposite because it's nasty out there. He said, I don't care. I have to do it for my country. He gave up a tremendous amount. If this didn't work, it would be a tragedy. Because, but that's what he loves. He loves the military. I never talked to him about anything else. He'd talk about the military. He'd come to see me about a soldier that was unfairly treated, and could I help? That's the only thing I virtually ever talked to him about. And I always remembered it. I've seen him many times, and I don't think I've ever had a subject on anything other than military with him. That's where his love is. And he didn't say, well, I'd like to think about it. I'd like to talk to my family. He said, not even a contest. And, you know, he was going through the roof over there. He was doing great. They have the #1 show that Saturday and Sunday with Will and Rachel. That was great chemistry. And if this didn't work out for him, it would be actually sort of tragic. Yeah.
Would you consider pardoning Eric Adams?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I think that he was treated pretty unfairly. Now, I haven't seen the gravity of it all, but it seems, you know, like being upgraded in an airplane many years ago. I know probably everybody here has been upgraded. They see you're all stars and they say, I want to upgrade that person from NBC. I'm going to upgrade him. And that would mean you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. I don't know. Somehow, I mean, I'd have to see it because I don't know the facts. I think he was treated. You know, it's very interesting. When he essentially went against what was happening with the migrants coming in. And, you know, he made some pretty strong statements like, this is not sustainable. I said, you know what? He'll be indicted soon. And I said it not as a prediction, a little bit lightheartedly, but I said it. I said, he's going to be indicted. And a few months later, he got indicted. So, yeah, I would certainly look at it. Yes.
Mr. President, can I ask you a question about the drones?
Planning on pulling them when you get into office, or will you?
Well, you know, we had 5,000 troops along the border, and I asked a couple of generals, so we have an army of 250,000 in Syria, and you had an army of 400,000. They have many more people than that. Turkey is a major force, by the way, and Erdogan is somebody I got along with great, but he has a major military force, and his has not been worn out with war. It hasn't been worn out with all of the other things. I mean, he's built a very strong, powerful army. And so we have 5,000 soldiers in between a 5 million person army and a 250,000 person army. And I asked the general, what do you think of that situation? He said, they'll be wiped out immediately. And I moved them out because, and I took a lot of heat. And you know what happened? Nothing. I saved a lot of lives. Now we have 900. They put some back, but 900, if you're talking about two, now one of the sides has been essentially wiped out, but nobody knows who the other side is. But I do. You know who it is? Turkey. Okay? Turkey's the one behind it. He's a very smart guy. They've wanted it for thousands of years, and he got it. And those people that went in are controlled by Turkey. And that's okay. It's another way to fight. But no, I don't think that I want to have our soldiers killed. But I don't think that will happen now anyway, because the one side's been decimated.
Mr. President, I want to ask you a question about the drones.
Is the president concerned about more unrest in that region, or do you think it will calm?
Well, nobody knows what the final outcome is going to be in the region. You know, nobody knows who really the final. I believe it's Turkey, and I think Turkey is very smart. He's a very smart guy, and he's very tough. But Turkey did an unfriendly takeover without a lot of lives being lost. I can say that Assad was a butcher. What he did to children. You remember I attacked him with the 58 missiles, unbelievable missiles coming from ships 700 miles away, and every one of them hit their target. But I did that. That was the red line in the sand. Obama drew it, and then he refused to honor what he did. He said, if anybody goes across the red line, and Assad killed many more children after that, and Obama did nothing, but I did. I hit him with a lot of missiles. In fact, President Xi was sitting here the night he was in that dining room having chocolate cake. Remember the famous chocolate cake? But and that's when I explained what we were doing as the missiles were shot. And it was amazing as to precision, because every one of those missiles hit its target from a long distance away. Had President Obama drawn the line and where it meant something, you wouldn't have even had Russia there. But in the end, I never understood why Russia went there. They were not getting very much out of it. But now their time is taken up with Ukraine, and we'd like to get them to stop on Ukraine, and Ukraine stop also. As you know, when I went to the cathedral, which was fantastic, the job that they've done in France, and the job that Macron, Emmanuel did. He did a phenomenal job on the rebuilding of that cathedral. It's magnificent, and they did a great thing. And they had great respect for our country. They treated me, meaning I'm the country, I'm the representative of our country, and we were treated with great respect. And one of the people that came to pay his respects is, as you know, Ukraine, Zelensky. And he would like to have peace. He wants peace. Everyone's being killed. It's the worst carnage that this world has seen since World War II. I've had pictures of fields where bodies are lying on top of bodies. Looks like the old pictures of the Civil War, where just bodies are all over. Just if you saw those pictures, you'd feel more strongly about it. It's got to stop. And we're trying to get it to stop. Well, we're gonna see. We're going to be talking. We'll be talking to President Putin, and we'll be talking to the representatives, Zelensky, and representatives from Ukraine. We got to stop it. It's carnage.
What about the fear here at home of the drones?
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows, and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Want to know the truth?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been?
Do you have any reason to think they're a threat?
Two quick questions. First, on vaccines, do you want RFK Jr. to revoke any vaccines?
No, I want him to come back with a report as to what he thinks. We're going to find out a lot. We're doing two things. We're going to have tremendous cost savings will come out of this. That's a minimum. And we're also going to have, and I think, very serious discussions about certain things, whether it's pesticides. Europe doesn't use pesticides, and yet they have a better mortality rate than we do. They don't use pesticides. In fact, they use it as an excuse not to take our farm product. We spend billions and billions of dollars on pesticides. And something bad's happening. Again, you take a look at autism today versus 20, 25 years ago, it's like not even believable. So we're going to have reports. No, nothing's going to happen very quickly. I think you're going to find that Bobby he's a very rational guy. I found him to be very rational. No, nothing, you're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen. I saw what happened with the polio. I have friends that were very much affected by that. I have friends from many years ago, and they have, obviously, they're still in not such good shape because of it. And many people died. And the moment they took that vaccine, it ended. Dr. Jonas Salk did a great job. So I don't anticipate that at all. But we're going to look into finding why is the autism rate so much higher than it was 20, 25, 30 years ago. I mean, it's 100 times higher. There's something wrong, and we're going to try finding that. We're also going to find out why are we paying more than other countries. And we were in the process of doing that through transparency and other things. We were doing a good job in that first term, and we brought it down. We got the $35, all of the different things. We got, we were the ones that got all of that done. Every one of those things, we got them done. I said, I hope I win, because otherwise somebody's going to take a lot of credit for what we did. But now what happens is we're gonna have a big conversation on price. Why is it that Germany and UK and other countries are paying so much more for the same box of medicine made in the same plant? Why is it that we're paying many times more? And I know the answer, because our government didn't do what they were supposed to do. And what I put in place was terminated unexpectedly by the Biden administration, and they shouldn't have terminated it. It would have had a huge impact.
And Mr. President, one quick question. On Ukraine, you mentioned that some of the areas are already decimated. Do you believe that Ukraine should cede territory to Russia?
Well, I'm going to let you know that after I have my first meeting. But a lot of that territory, when you look at what's happened to those, I mean, there are cities that there's not a building standing. It's a demolition site. There's not a building standing. So people can't go back to those cities. There's nothing there. It's just rubble. Just like when I knocked down a building in Manhattan, which is actually, this is worse, actually, because we do it step by step. This thing has just got demolished. And by the way, in those buildings are many people. Many people were in those buildings. When they say the number in Ukraine is going to be a much higher number of death, is going to be a much higher number than you're hearing. They're big buildings. That's what I did very well. And these are very long buildings. They're 15 to 20 stories high. They're massive buildings. I was surprised at how big. And they're flattened like a pancake. 1 or 2 bombs hit them and they just collapse. And they'd say, nobody was hurt. Well, nobody knows who was in those buildings. There were a lot of people in those buildings. They're going to find that when they start doing the removal. Many more people are being killed in the Ukraine war with Russia than is being reported. And that includes soldiers. The soldiers are being, it's a carnage that we haven't seen since the Second World War. It's got to be stopped. And I'm doing my best to stop it. Yeah, please, go ahead.
You had a meeting with Mrs. Abe yesterday, but Japanese Prime Minister, Mrs. Abe, yeah, and Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba is hoping to have a meeting anytime soon.
I will do that. In fact, I sent him a memento. I sent him a book, the Prime Minister. But Mrs. Abe was very close with our First Lady, with Melania, and she loved Melania's book. And she called and wanted to know if she could have. I was very close to the Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe. He was great. He was a great man. And his wife wanted to know if it would be possible to have dinner. And it was just out of respect to Shinzo. And yes, I'd love to see the Prime Minister, and we will do that. I actually sent him a book and some other things for him through Mrs. Abe.
Will that happen before the inauguration day?
It could. If they'd like to do that, I would do that, yeah.
Sir, President Trump, just to clarify.
I have great respect for the position, and if he'd like to do that, I'd be here.
And you have the word that Ambassador to Japan will be George Glass. Is that your final decision?
Highly respected man. That's right. Highly respected. He's been an ambassador before, did a fantastic job. We consider Japan very important. He's very highly respected. Okay, couple.
Which other world leaders have you invited to the inauguration? Which other world leaders have you invited to the inauguration?
The world leaders are calling me, and some
Are they
really
coming?
would like to meet. No, I mean, literally, they're calling me, and I'll be seeing some of them. I think it's rude not to. I mean, it's hard to say I'm not going to see you. And I've spoken to way over 100 where they call to congratulate on not only the election, but the size of the election, the extent of the victory. And they were great. I mean, I spoke to over 100 countries. You wouldn't believe how many countries there are. And I'm trying the best I can to get back to everybody, but there are a lot of countries, and every one of them, literally everyone called, and it was very nice. So, yeah, I'd see some if some felt it was an emergency. I've seen, as you know, I've seen President Zelensky. He came to France while I was there for the cathedral opening. They actually had about 70 presidents and prime ministers, and in one case, a king. We saw some great people. I also met with William, and I was very impressed by William. I think William is terrific. I was very impressed by William. As you know, I met with him too.
Are you just
President Trump,
Did you invite Zelensky to the inauguration?
No, but if you'd like to come, I'd like to have him. I mean, I didn't invite him, no.
Are you disappointed Are you disappointed that China's Xi won't be at the inauguration?
I don't know that he won't be at the inauguration. I mean, I haven't really spoken to him about it. I don't know that, actually. I would say that if he'd like to come, I'd love to have him. But there's been nothing much discussed. I have had discussions with him, letters, et cetera, at a very high level. You know, we had a very good relationship until COVID. COVID didn't end the relationship, but it was a bridge too far for me. But if he'd like to come, I'd certainly be. He hasn't, just so you understand, he hasn't said one way or the other. Because a lot of people say he won't come, he will come. People think he will come, he won't come. It's something we barely discussed, just about didn't discuss. But I have had, especially through letters, some very good conversations.
Have you had conversations with Venezuela?
You know, because China and the United States can together solve all of the problems of the world, if you think about it. So it's very important. And, you know, he was a friend of mine. I mean, he was here for a long time, right in that spot, except sitting in a very comfortable chair. He wasn't standing like you are. But we spent hours and hours talking. And, you know, he's an amazing guy.
Have you spoken to Venezuela?
The press hates when I say that, but he's an amazing person.
Have you spoken to anyone in Venezuela, sir? On the border. If I could just ask you on the border. Hold on one second, Gary, real quick.
United Healthcare shooting, the shooting of the CEO in here. Can you give us your thoughts about that? And what do you make of the reaction around the suspected shooter? Does that tell you anything about how people
I think it's a terrible thing. I think it's really terrible that some people seem to admire him, like him. And I was happy to see that it wasn't specific to this gentleman that was killed. It's just an overall sickness as opposed to a specific sickness. That was a terrible thing. It was cold-blooded, just a cold-blooded, horrible killing. And how people can like this guy is, that's a sickness, actually. That's really very bad, especially the way it was done. It was so bad, right in the back. And very bad, very thing like that. You can't believe that some people, and maybe it's fake news. I don't know. It's hard to believe that that can even be thought of. But it seems that there's a certain appetite for him. I don't get it. Yeah, please.
Could you just comment on?
I want to expand on the defamation lawsuits. Could you see moving that to other people with individual platforms, social media influencers, people that
or newspapers? Yeah. Oh, I do. I think you have to do it because they're very dishonest. We need a great media. We need a fair media. We need, it's very important. And we need borders. We need walls, but we need borders and we need fair elections. You look at California, millions and millions of ballots were sent out. They're still counting the vote in California with the machines. They're counting the vote. If you had paper ballots, the votes would have been counted 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Now, you need fair elections, you need borders, and you need a fair press. And the press says, no, I see others. I have a few others that I'm doing. I'm going to, as an example, I'm doing this not because I want to. I'm doing this because I feel I have an obligation to. I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper, which had a very, very good pollster who got me right all the time. And then just before the election, she said I was going to lose by 3 or 4 points. And it became the biggest story all over the world because I was going to win Iowa by 20 points. The farmers loved me and I loved the farmers. And it was interesting the way she did it. She brought it down 2 weeks before. She said I was going to only win by 4. That was a big story. But that was good because she brought it down from like 22 points to 4 or whatever the number was. Way up, easy win. We never even thought to go there. I respect them. I love them. And they understand there's no reason to go there because she brought it from way up, walk away, which it was. And it turned out to be in the election too, by the way. It was a win by many, many points. And then she brought it down very smartly to 4 a couple of weeks before. And everyone said, wow, that's amazing. He's only up by 4 points. Then she brought it down to where I was down by 3 or 4, whatever number she used. And that was the Des Moines Register. And it was their parent. And in my opinion, it was fraud and it was election interference. You know, she's gotten me right always. She's a very good pollster. She knows what she was doing. And she then quit before. And we'll probably be filing a major lawsuit against them today or tomorrow. We're filing one on 60 Minutes, you know about that, where they took Kamala's answer, which was a crazy answer, a horrible answer, and they took the whole answer out and they replaced it with something else she said later on in the interview, which wasn't a great answer, but it wasn't like the first one. The first was grossly incompetent. It was weird. And that was fraud and election interference by their news magazine, a big part of CBS News. So as you know, we're involved in that one. We're involved in one which has been going on for a while and very successfully against Bob Woodward, where he didn't quote me properly from the tapes. And then on top of everything else, he sold the tapes, which he wasn't allowed to do. He could only use them for reporting purposes, not for sale purposes. And he admits that. And I think we'll be successful on that one. And we have one very interestingly on Pulitzer because reporters at the New York Times, Washington Post got Pulitzer Prizes for their wonderful, accurate, and highly professional reporting on the Russia hoax. Well, it turned out to be a hoax, and they were exactly wrong. People, like many people, John Solomon, Sean Hannity's not for Pulitzer, but Sean Hannity got it right. Many people got it right. Tucker got it right. Jesse got it right. Laura got it right. Janine got it right. A lot of people got it right. They didn't get anything. They gave it to reporters that got it absolutely wrong. And now everybody admits it was a hoax. And I want them to take back the Pulitzer Prizes and pay big damages. And I think we're doing very well on that one. They have no excuse for it. They gave a Pulitzer Prize to writers that got Russia wrong. And so I think we're doing well. And I feel I have to do this. I shouldn't really be the one to do it. It should have been the Justice Department or somebody else, but I have to do it. It costs a lot of money to do it, but we have to straighten out the press. Our press is very corrupt, almost as corrupt as our elections.
Are you worried about Venezuela? Sir, have you had any discussions with Venezuela?
For January 6th defendants, you had said in the first few minutes of your administration, you want to issue pardons for January 6th defendants. Does that include, will that be a blanket pardon? Does that include
Well, you'll find
everyone?
out, but it's going to go quickly.
And just to follow up on your
Have you had any discussion, sir, in terms of your mass deportation plans, have you had any preliminary discussions with countries like Venezuela, from where the Tren de Aragua gang is now popping up?
They'll take them back.
They're going to take them back?
They're all taking them back, yep. And if they don't, they'll be met very harshly economically. Okay, they'll all take them back. You know, Venezuela and other countries were not behaving very well with us during my administration, and within 24 hours, they were behaving very well. They'll all take them back.
And separately, can I ask a follow-up
Jeff?
on that?
Nice to see you, Jeff. This is like the old days, right?
Nice to see you.
You've looked, actually, you look much better now than you did 4 years ago. What are you doing? What's he doing? All right, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The first day you just mentioned that you're in office, I imagine you've got some executive orders that you're going to go through. Can you tell us what
We'll have a lot. Well,
what are your priorities?
I bet you could tell, you could say as well as I could. We will have many executive orders and other things that we'll be signing on the first day.
Can you also, just going back to my initial question about the Middle East, you said that your conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu was kind of a review. Did you repeat
We just had a very good conversation. And, you know, the real conversations will start on the 20th. But we had a really good conversation, and I think we're going to be in a good place in the Middle East. I think the Middle East will be in a good place. I think actually more difficult is going to be the Russia-Ukraine situation. I see that as more difficult.
When you say there will be
I don't think they should have allowed missiles to be shot 200 miles into Russia. I think that was a bad thing. And that brought the Koreans in, you know, North Korea, another man I get along with very well. I'm the only one that does. But that did a lot of bad things. I don't think that should have been allowed. Not when there's a possibility, and certainly not just weeks before I take over. Why would they do that without asking me what I thought? I wouldn't have had them do that. I think that was a big mistake they made.
Will you reverse that decision when you're in office to let those
I might, yeah.
missiles be?
I thought it was a very stupid thing to do.
And when you say,
Do you have any reaction
just
to
one last one on
Cross?
this, when you say that there will be hell to pay if the hostages are not released before January 20th, what does that mean?
Well, they're going to have to determine what that means. But it means it won't be pleasant.
Mr. President,
It's not going to be pleasant, yeah?
how was your meeting with Apple CEO Tim Cook, and did you talk about tariffs in that meeting?
Meeting with who?
Apple CEO Tim Cook.
I did have dinner with Tim Cook. I had dinner with sort of almost all of them, and the rest are coming. And this is one of the big differences, I think, between, we were talking about it before, one of the big differences between the first term. In the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something. But I had, as you know, I had Sundar from Google, but I also had Sergey. Nobody reported that. Sergey is the owner, the primary owner, along with his friend, as you know. And Sergey was here also. I can't believe you didn't pick that one up. Nobody picked that up. But I will tell you, no, it's a big difference. The big difference is that the first time everybody was fighting me on all fronts. And we had a great administration. We got the biggest tax cuts in history, rebuilt the military. Too much of it was given away to Afghanistan, stupidly given away, horribly given away. I think that's one of the reasons that Putin went in to Ukraine when he saw the stupidity of Milley and these guys. They're stupid people, very stupid people. If they didn't do such a bad, you know, we were pulling out of Afghanistan, but I would have pulled out with dignity and strength. They wouldn't be having parades, I guarantee you, showing our equipment that they left behind, because we weren't going to leave any equipment behind, not 10 cents. We were going to take every screw and every bolt. Yeah, the biggest difference is that people want to get along with me this time. Well, they've gone through 4 years, and, you know, it wasn't easy for me, but it wasn't easy for them either. And that's a great thing, though. Getting along is a great thing. So Tim Cook was here. I think he's done an incredible job at Apple. And he talked about the future of Apple. It's going to be a bright future. But we have many others also, and not in that business. And we do have Jeff Bezos, Amazon, coming in sometime during the week. Look forward to that. We have a lot of great executives coming in. The top executives, the top bankers, they're all calling. And honestly, in the first time, I don't know what it was. It's like a complete opposite. In the first one, and the press has covered that fairly, actually, for change. The first one, they were very hostile. And maybe it was my fault, but I don't really think so. They were just very right from the beginning. And this one is much less hostile. It's really the opposite of hostile.
Can I get your reaction?
Well, you're free to give up a
Sir, I know that you had some, I believe, involvement 18 years ago with the students at Duke accused of rape in the lacrosse. Now we have this development.
I thought it was a hoax when it happened, the Duke situation. I didn't believe the woman, as you know, and they destroyed the lives of these these kids they destroyed, and I don't care what they got, their lives have been destroyed, their lives have been shortened by what took place. And now the woman admitted that it never happened. That is a horrible, and as you know, I took a lot of heat when I said that this did not happen. And those kids were beautiful kids with beautiful families, and they were, in some cases, will never be the same. They will never be the same.
Have you talked to them by chance?
Your thoughts on the Postal Service? You mentioned Bezos a second ago, and I've always thought Bezos would be a key person to go in there and really streamline the logistics of the post office, but they lose billions.
Well, there is talk about the Postal Service being taken private. You do know that. Not the worst idea I've ever heard. It really isn't. You know, it's a lot different today with between Amazon and UPS and FedEx and all the things that you didn't have. But there is talk about that. It's an idea that a lot of people have liked for a long time. We're looking at it. I think we're looking at that along with a lot of any questions for Howard, by the way? Commerce.
Sure, I'll ask one. Mr. Incoming Secretary, do you see another trade deal with China coming?
I think the president.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. Oh, it's easy for me. You're sitting next to me, so it's okay. No, the president has very clear agenda for tariffs. And I think reciprocity is something that is going to be a key topic for us. How you treat us is how you should expect to be treated.
Would you like to weigh in, sir, on that?
You said it so well, reciprocal. If they tax us, we tax them the same amount. They tax us, forgetting just for a second about the word tax. They tax us, we tax them. And they tax us, almost in all cases, they're taxing us, and we haven't been taxing them.
Is that deal already underway? Is there a deal already underway with respect to that?
Let's just say this, we're going to make great deals, and we have all the cards. And until I came along, don't forget, and Howard was going over the numbers with me last night, we took in $600 billion and more in taxes and tariffs from China. No other president took in 10 cents, not 10 cents, not 10 cents. And no, well, we're going to be doing things. We're going to be treating people very fairly. But the word reciprocal is important because if somebody charges us, India, we don't have to talk about own. If India charges us 100%, and we charge them nothing for the same, you know, they send in a bicycle and we send them a bicycle. They charge us 100 and 200. India charges a lot. Brazil charges a lot. If they want to charge us, that's fine, but we're going to charge them the same thing. That's a big
worried about
and you know what? The senators, some of them aren't necessarily business people. When I give that to them, they say, that sounds fair to me.
Are you concerned that tariffs might hurt the stock market rise that you have seen and the economy more broadly?
Make our country rich. Tariffs will make our country rich.
But won't they raise prices?
Properly used. Will make, no, well, I didn't have any inflation and I had massive tariffs on a lot of things. We put tariffs on steel. If I didn't put tariffs on steel, 50% and more, they were dumping steel in, China and others. I put tariffs on and it stopped and we took a fortune. We made a fortune on it. Tariffs, properly used, which we will do, and being reciprocal with other nations, but it'll make our country rich. Our country right now loses to everybody. Almost nobody do we have a surplus with. There are a couple of countries and they're embarrassed by it, but almost nobody. And tariffs will make, I always said to me, tariffs is the most beautiful word in the dictionary. It'll make our country rich. You go back and look at the 1890s, 1880s, McKinley, and you take a look at tariffs, that was when we were at our proportionately the richest.
Mr. President, did you get to a good spot?
Back on Ukraine, Mr. President. What should Zelensky, if anything, be prepared to give up to end this war?
He should be prepared to make a deal. That's all. Got to be a deal. No, got to be a deal. Too many people being killed. That is a war that's hard. Too many people. Got to make a deal. And Putin has to make a deal.
What deal would you think?
Putin has to make a deal, and Putin would have never gotten in if I was president. If I was president, we wouldn't have had inflation. Our oil prices would have been lower. I had a good relationship with Putin. He would, despite the Russia hoax, which made it more difficult. If we had that election, if it were an honorable election, we wouldn't have had any of the problems that we're talking about right now. Putin would have never got it.
You said that you could make that deal before you take office. Do you still think you could make that deal?
I'm going to try.
Will you ask
Based on
Putin
your-
to give up Assad?
Well, I hadn't thought of it. I think we have to get on with our lives. We'll have to see what happens. But right now, Syria has a lot of, there's a lot of indefinites. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Syria. But I think Turkey is going to hold the key to Syria, actually. I don't think you've heard that from anybody else, but I've been pretty good at predicting. I want to thank you all, and we're going to make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Termina la comparecencia del presidente electo de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, desde su casa de Mar-a-Lago. Una comparecencia que inicialmente era para anunciar el acuerdo alcanzado con SoftBank, a través del cual la empresa invertirá $100.000 millones en Estados Unidos bajo la administración Trump y también creará 100.000 puestos de trabajo. Sin embargo, esta rueda de prensa de Donald Trump ha servido para tomar la temperatura de sus perspectivas geopolíticas. Entre otras cosas, uno de los últimos titulares ha dicho Donald Trump que nadie sabe qué va a pasar en Siria tras el derrocamiento de Bashar al-Assad y que cree que Turquía tiene la llave. También ha hablado de la guerra entre Rusia y Ucrania, dice que es el conflicto que más le preocupa, mucho más que la situación en Oriente Medio, y ha dicho que se están produciendo avances y que tiene esperanza en resolver el conflicto. Le han preguntado en varias ocasiones a qué parte del territorio tendría que renunciar Zelensky en un futurible acuerdo con Putin, y a eso no ha querido responder. Ha dicho que ya se sentarán a hablar, que cierto es que Zelensky no está invitado a su toma de posesión del próximo día 20 de enero, pero que se están produciendo demasiadas muertes en esa guerra entre Siria y Ucrania, que las cifras reales son muy superiores a las que se conocen de forma oficial. También ha hablado de la relación con China, de esos aranceles. Ha dicho que si China impone aranceles, ellos también los impondrán, pero no ha querido aclarar si Estados Unidos tomará ahora la iniciativa en esa imposición de aranceles, y ha dicho que si Estados Unidos y China se llevan bien, son capaces de resolver todos los problemas del mundo. Pausa publicitaria después de esta intensa rueda de prensa de Donald Trump, y a la vuelta empezamos con nuestro noticiero.
Recibes un mensaje alarmante de tu inquilino en el que te informa que no puede pagar el alquiler. No te preocupes, SEAC está aquí para ayudarte. Nuestro equipo te asegura que recibirás tu renta a tiempo. Con SEAC, tu renta está protegida. Recibes el ingreso en tu cuenta como siempre. Disfruta de la tranquilidad sabiendo que SEAC maneja el imprevisto por ti. Alquila tranquilo. SEAC responde.
Silver Gold Patrimonio nace en 2018 con el objetivo de innovar en el mercado de los metales preciosos de inversión, ofreciendo nuevas alternativas para que cualquier persona, familia o empresa pueda entrar en el fantástico mundo de los metales de inversión de forma sencilla y acompañada por consultores expertos en el sector. Silver Gold Patrimonio quiere avanzar contigo. Silver Gold Patrimonio nace en 2018 con el objetivo de innovar en el mercado de los metales preciosos de inversión, ofreciendo nuevas alternativas para que cualquier persona, familia o empresa pueda entrar en el fantástico mundo de los metales de inversión de forma sencilla y acompañada por consultores expertos en el sector. Silver Gold Patrimonio quiere avanzar contigo.
¿Las soluciones de inversión tradicionales ya no cumplen con sus objetivos financieros? ¿La escasa rentabilidad y la volatilidad de los mercados le empujan a mantener los ahorros en su cuenta corriente? Si la respuesta a ambas preguntas es afirmativa, lo más probable es que esté pensando que la opción de no invertir es la óptima. Esta alternativa es quizás la más inmediata, pero ciertamente no parece la más rentable. Nuestros productos de generación de rentas están diseñados para ofrecerle el equilibrio adecuado entre seguridad y rentabilidad, con el fin de aprovechar todas las oportunidades del mercado. Hemos revisado nuestro enfoque tradicional, ampliando el espectro de oportunidades dentro del segmento de rentas para una inversión que le prepare mejor para el futuro. Y con la integración de los principios ESG, podemos ayudar a construir un futuro más verde para todos los inversores que buscan rentabilidad. No se conforme con la liquidez. Prepárese para el futuro con fondos de Invesco. Descubra más en invesco.es/income.
Milito y Cecilia Peña lo están petando en redes sociales. Contadnos qué es Viking Speed y Nice Green.
Tú eres súper fan nuestro, bien lo sabes. Mira, ya tenemos distribuidor en Japón, Noruega, Suecia. Yo alucino cuando veo mi producto japonés o noruego o búlgaro. Pero es que eso es poco. Además, mira,
Próximamente en Colombia.
¿Colombia?
Sí, nos vamos a América.
A hacer las Américas. Pero cuéntanos, Ceci, ¿qué es Viking Speed?
Javi, tú que eres fan, sabes perfectamente que en Internet está toda la información para todo el público.
Pues efectivamente, soy súper fan de Viking Speed y Nice Green. A mí me soluciona la vida porque me vale para todo.
Bueno, para todo no vale.
¿Para qué no vale, Milito?
Oye, mira, por ejemplo, para peinarse. Mira qué pelo traigo.
¿Buscas la plataforma más confiable para tus criptomonedas? Binket es el exchange número 1 en copy trading a nivel mundial. Más de 45 millones de usuarios confían actualmente en nosotros. Más de 800 criptomonedas y 190.000 traders élite, es decir, traders profesionales. Un fondo de protección de más de 400 millones de dólares. Un volumen diario de 10.000 millones de dólares. Un ratio de reserva de 1.5 para que tus activos estén totalmente protegidos. Genera más rendimiento con tus criptomonedas. Regístrate hoy. Binket, seguridad, confianza y éxito.
Seis y 31 minutos, hora central europea. Bienvenidos a nuestro noticiero con el foco puesto, como siempre, en la actualidad geopolítica, en esa guerra entre Rusia y Ucrania. Novedades en torno al conflicto, también novedades en torno a Oriente Próximo, con el foco puesto en Siria. Pero vamos a resumir la actualidad en primer lugar mirando a Alemania y a esa votación de la moción de confianza contra Olaf Scholz que se ha producido esta misma tarde. Porque después de esa votación, Alemania emprende el rumbo a la celebración de elecciones legislativas anticipadas el próximo 23 de febrero, después de que el canciller alemán Olaf Scholz haya perdido, como se esperaba, la moción de confianza que se ha votado esta tarde en el Bundestag. Han votado a favor 207 diputados, 394 en contra y 116 se han abstenido del total de 736 diputados que tiene el Bundestag. Necesitaba Scholz 367 apoyos para mantenerse en el poder, lo que se daba por descontado que no sucedería esta tarde. Es la sexta vez que un canciller alemán recurre a esta medida, el paso previo en la Constitución Federal para que los ciudadanos alemanes sean convocados a las urnas antes de lo previsto. Como ya anunció previamente el canciller Scholz, informará al presidente, a Frank-Walter Steinmeier, de que su gobierno tricolor ya no tiene apoyos suficientes en el Parlamento Federal, así que el siguiente paso es que el presidente proceda a convocar elecciones. La fecha ha sido fijada previamente y será el 23 de febrero.
Den Schriftführerinnen und Schriftführern ermittelte Ergebnis der namentlichen Abstimmung über den Antrag des Bundeskanzlers gemäß Artikel 68 Grundgesetz bekannt. Abgegebene Stimmkarten 717. Mit Ja haben gestimmt 207. Mit Nein haben gestimmt 394. Enthaltungen 116. Für die Zustimmung zur Vertrauensfrage des Bundeskanzlers sind mindestens 367 Stimmen erforderlich. Der Antrag des Bundeskanzlers hat die erforderliche Mehrheit von mindestens 367 Ja-Stimmen nicht erreicht. Ich werde dem Bundespräsidenten unverzüglich das Ergebnis der Abstimmung mitteilen. Wir sind damit am Schluss unserer Tagesordnung, auch der Ampel. Die nächste Sitzung des Deutschen Bundestages findet am Mittwoch, den 18. Dezember 2024, 13 Uhr statt. Die Sitzung.
Y de Alemania nos vamos a Estados Unidos con esa rueda de prensa que ha ofrecido hace unos minutos y que les hemos ofrecido aquí en directo el presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump. Donald Trump, el presidente electo, llegará a la Casa Blanca el día 20 de enero y en puertas de su llegada a la Casa Blanca, para la que quedan 35 días, ha asegurado que el mundo está en llamas ahora, que hay una situación de conflictividad geopolítica intensísima y que trabajará para acabar con los conflictos abiertos. Dice Donald Trump que cuando él se fue de la Casa Blanca en la anterior legislatura en la que gobernó, el mundo estaba en paz y que ahora, sin embargo, le preocupa mucho lo que está pasando en Oriente Medio y sobre todo en la guerra entre Rusia y Ucrania. Dice Donald Trump, noticia de última hora, que está trabajando duro para que el conflicto entre Rusia y Ucrania termine lo antes posible y dice que se están produciendo pequeños avances. En cualquier caso, ha insistido en que con él en la Casa Blanca nunca se habría producido esta guerra e insiste en que hará todo lo posible por resolver la situación.
Very much on that. We're trying to get the war stopped, that horrible war that's going on in Ukraine, with Russia, Ukraine. We're going to, we've got a little progress. It's a tough one. It's a nasty one. There's no protection, no nothing. And it's what's happening there is far worse than people are reporting for both sides. So we're going to do our best, and we've been doing our best, and we'll see what happens. But since the election, I've been working every day to put the world at ease a little bit, to get rid of the wars. We had no wars when I left office, and now it's the whole world is blowing up.
Y tenemos que hablar de esa guerra entre Rusia y Ucrania sobre el terreno, porque el presidente ruso Vladimir Putin ha dicho hoy que el ejército ruso se ha hecho con el control de un total de 189 localidades ucranianas a lo largo de este año en el marco de la guerra con Ucrania. Dice que las tropas rusas mantienen la presión sobre toda la línea de frente. Durante un encuentro con altos cargos del Ministerio de Defensa de Rusia, Putin ha indicado que se trata de un año muy significativo en lo referente a los objetivos de Rusia como parte de su operación militar especial. Una operación con cifras récord, ha dicho el propio Putin. Ha dado las gracias al profesionalismo y al coraje de los soldados rusos y dice que las tropas rusas han conseguido mantener su estrategia. Ha indicado que todas las zonas que han sido controladas en Ucrania con el férreo apoyo del ejército y de la armada. Dice que quiere ofrecer a los militares su más sincero agradecimiento por cumplir, dice, con su deber, aunque sea difícil. Ha aclarado que tan solo unas horas después de que el Ministerio de Defensa haya informado de que el ejército ruso se ha hecho con el control de la localidad, de una localidad en Donetsk. Y también ha dicho que la OTAN está llevando a Rusia a una situación límite.
Try to keep their population in fear of a Russian attack. Their tactics are very simple. They push us to the red line. They push us to the boundary, forcing us to respond, and then they start presenting us as a threat, just as they did during the Soviet times. NATO countries are racking up their military expenses. They're deploying their strike troops near our borders. Now there are over 100,000 US troops in Europe.
La OTAN, por su parte, reconoce que Rusia está realizando avances en localidades ucranianas el mismo día en que el Ministerio de Defensa de Rusia ha anunciado que Putin se ha apoderado de 189 localidades ucranianas en 2024. El secretario general de la Alianza Atlántica ha reconocido que la guerra entre Rusia y Ucrania se enfrenta, dice Marrute, a un momento crucial.
Military equipment and supporting through NATO's comprehensive assistance package. The situation on the battlefield in Ukraine remains difficult, and Russia is making gains, be it incremental gains, but still gains. Over the past weeks, we have seen large-scale attacks against Ukraine that killed and terrorized civilians and targeted critical infrastructure. This could be Ukraine's most difficult winter since this started.
Y precisamente sobre esta guerra entre Rusia y Ucrania, el Departamento del Tesoro de Estados Unidos ha anunciado sanciones contra 11 ciudadanos norcoreanos y 8 empresas rusas y también de Corea del Norte por su participación, dice el Departamento del Tesoro, a favor de Rusia en la guerra con Ucrania. Esto solo unos días después de que Estados Unidos haya anunciado el desmantelamiento de una red de trabajadores de Corea del Norte que operaban de forma remota y bajo identidades robadas, generando más de 88 millones de dólares entre 2017 y 2023, fondos que habrían sido desviados hacia el gobierno de Corea del Norte con ingresos que en principio, según el Departamento del Tesoro de Estados Unidos, se destinaban a financiar programas de desarrollo de misiles balísticos y otras armas por parte de Corea del Norte, en una violación de las sanciones internacionales vigentes contra el régimen de Pyongyang. Y nos vamos en directo de Donald Trump, pasamos a Joe Biden. Comparecencia en directo desde la Casa Blanca del presidente saliente de Estados Unidos.
And I want to thank Acting Secretary Sue and the Department of Labor for his incredible honor. You know, I measure the importance of any award I ever received based on the character and consequence of the organization that's bestowing it. And the Department of Labor is an organization of character and consequence. And I'm honored. I'm honored to be joined today by leaders of character and conscience. Many of you sit right here in the front row, half my cabinet's here. I want to thank all the labor leaders here today, including Liz and the AFL-CIO, members of the cabinet, including Interior Secretary Deb Haaland. You know, you talked about that list that the secretary brought in her pocket when she met with Trump, with Roosevelt. Trump, Freudian slip. And I think she had a relative she left behind. Would you stand up, Madam Secretary, Secretary of Interior? I've been around a long time. She's the only secretary I've ever worked with or had working for me. And when I say that's done, she said, no, we have this to do now. Thank you, kiddo. Look, you know, former labor secretary who's now in the White House Senior Advisors Corps is Tom Perez. Tom, thanks for sticking with me. And members of Congress, including Maine Senator Angus King and Shirley Pingree. Where are you guys? All over here. Okay, there you go. And by the way, last night we were doing a Christmas event at the house, and I get finished talking to a group of folks from labor, and my wife said, and by the way, his wife's a member of a labor union too. I'm Joe Biden's husband. She's not here today, but she's been a long-time union member of the National Education Association. And it's fitting with all these powerful women here that were gathered at headquarters of the Department of Labor. Named after one of America's greatest labor leaders, now that's not hyperbole, Frances Perkins. You know, we're honored to be joined by her grandson, Tomlin. Where are you, Tomlin? Thank you, brother. Saturday, March 25th, 1911. Frances sat down for afternoon tea at her home with a close friend from New York City. Suddenly, they hear the sound of a distant screams and sirens. A building was in flames. Her instinct was to run to the scene. As she approached the fire and smoke, she recognized the Triangle Shirt Factory, a company that employed hundreds of workers, mostly immigrants and women who worked long hours, crammed into tight quarters, where managers locked them inside to make clothing. In an instant, those workers are trapped in a brutal blaze with no safe exit. Some workers forced to climb out the windows, holding on for dear life until their fingers gave out. Others just jumped, prayed and jumped. A total of 150 lives were lost that day. It was the deadliest industrial disaster in American history. Frances was devastated, but that fire ignited a passion in her. It strengthened her resolve to fight even harder for working Americans and working families. In her decades of service, she became a fierce defender of unions and workers' rights, an architect of the New Deal, the first woman cabinet secretary, I increased on that a little bit because I know what my family's like. All the really bright people in my family are women. And the longest serving Secretary of Labor in American history, God love you. And the story goes, after Franklin Roosevelt asked her to become his labor secretary, Frances Perkins immediately responded by outlining her goals, what she wanted done. She said, I want unemployment relief, overtime pay, child labor laws, minimum wage, workers' compensation, national health insurance, and Social Security. Many of the benefits we take for granted as a consequence of Frances' dedication, insight, and courage. But can you imagine walking up to Roosevelt saying, here, I'll take the job, but here's the deal, man. Let's get this straight. Like I said, a little bit like when I asked Frances to do my job. Hard-fought battles with Teamsters and, a real testament to her skill as an advocate for public servants. An example, through the Fair Labor Standards Act, she cemented the idea that if you're working a full-time job, you shouldn't have to live in poverty. A simple proposition. If you work a little extra, you should have extra money for overtime. Not a crazy idea. Some even argue about it now. Frances understood what my dad taught me. And you've heard me say this 1,000 times, but he really would say this. He said, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. That's my dad. In fact, during her 12 years in office, she accomplished everything on her list except expanded health care for health insurance. It took 65 years later and a guy named Barack Obama and I to get the Affordable Care Act passed. Thank God all of us here protected and expanded the Affordable Care Act. Look, it's clear that Frances Perkins and a generation of activists and labor leaders laid the groundwork for much of what we've accomplished in the last 4 years. We're fundamentally transforming the economy by breaking an economic orthodoxy that has failed this nation for generation after generation, in my view. Trickle-down economics, the notion that if the wealthy do very, very well, a little trickle off their tables onto our kitchen table. My dad used to say, nothing ever trickled on my table, honey. No, I'm serious. My dad was a really well-read man who didn't get to go. He went accepted to Johns Hopkins, but during the war, he never got to go. But my dad was a well-read guy. Well, the primary benefits to the very wealthy and biggest corporations were trickle-down economics. And that didn't do much for working people in the middle class and left too many people behind. Together, we built an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down. Because we know this simple truth. Wall Street didn't build America. The middle class built America. And unions built the middle class. That's a fact. In fact, as the Secretary of Treasury will tell you, I asked her to do a study because I was going to get hit because I knew they'd say by having unions increasing their numbers and their wages go up, we were going to cost people things. Guess what? The study the Treasury did show that when unions do well, all workers do well, union and non-worker, across the board. It matters, it works, it's fair. Kamala and I are so proud of the great job creation record of actually the greatest job creation of any single president in a single term. Over 6 million new jobs so far, including 1.5 million manufacturing and construction jobs. Good paying jobs you can raise a family on, don't have to require a 4-year degree. And get this, there are more women, especially mothers in the workforce, than ever before in American history. We're so damn proud to protected pensions of millions of union workers and retirees. When I signed the Butch-Lewis Act, think about that. Imagine what the average American would say if you're going to do that with their Social Security, which this guy wants to do. Imagine if he said your pension, you can't count it anymore. In addition, we've recovered more than $1 billion in back wages and damages for over 600,000 workers here in America. We pushed for a right to a living wage and your right to overtime pay. Jobs and factories are coming back home to America because we invested in an American agenda. We're modernizing American infrastructure. Last guy had the job, he had infrastructure week every week. Didn't build a damn thing. Well, guess what? We built a lot, and guess what's coming? Look, folks, one of the things that was frustrating, I knew this was going to happen because I've been around a long time. I talked over to the Secretary of Agriculture and other places. Guess what? All the things, we have $1.4 trillion in economic and infrastructure growth. That's thousands of good paying jobs. The CHIPS and Science Act, investing billions of dollars, building these fabs that are going to house hundreds of people working, thousands. They're going to be getting paid about average $102,000 a year and don't need a college degree. So much is going on. But it's going to take a little bit of time. But we got to make sure to protect the onslaught that's going to come, because it's hard to see right away. And by the way, I know I got criticized by putting as many of these programs in red states as blue states. Actually more. Well, guess what? The red state guys screwed it up. And we got a benefit. We represent all of America. Not just blue America, not just Democrats, but all of America. Look, as we do all this, we're buying America, using American workers, using American products. And we're standing up to America for American steelworkers against China's unfair trade practices. We appointed a National Labor Relations Board that actually believes in unions, has pro-union members on the board. James Notion. And a special thank you to the chair of the board, Lauren McFerrin. Sure, where are you, Lauren? Thank you, Lauren. Don't be so shy. Raise your stand up. Let everybody see you. There's no accident that petitions to form unions have doubled under my presidency. I got all this credit for walking the picket line. It never crossed my mind not to walk the picket line. No, I'm serious. I didn't think it was any big deal. Walked a lot of picket lines. In fact, I was president. I hadn't thought about that. But Pamela walked the picket line. We support the right to fair contracts. Here's one, that doesn't get enough attention. When workers in sectors like construction, manufacturing, mining inhale toxic silica dust on the job, it can lead to lung cancer and other deadly diseases. It's been a major problem for decades, even under Secretary Perkins. She led an investigation, but despite the science, big business blocked the regulation. But not on our watch, not on your watch. With your help, we carried Francis Mano and issued a rule that finally reduces such dangerous exposure. And by the way, our Secretary of Veterans Affairs is sitting in front of me here, one of the really good guys. I really mean it. What we not only did with the CHIPS and Science Act, and then we went and made sure we could take care of veterans. We said all those folks in my generation exposed to Agent Orange couldn't prove that their illness was a consequence of it. And all those like my son's generation exposed to toxic burn pits in Iraq and other places, that it's assumed that my son came back, for example, with stage 4 glioblastoma, more brain injuries than anything else. And guess what? They're entitled to the benefits that they were going to get if they had not lost their lives. Their family. And to ad lib here a little bit, I think the American people are beginning to figure out all we're doing is basically decent and fair. just basically decent and fair. We have a lot of sacred obligations. I got in trouble for saying this before, but we only have one truly sacred obligation: to prepare those we send into harm's way and prepare for them and their families when they come home. And that's a simple proposition. Finally, that's happening. What you got, another million now? 1 million you're taking care of. Make no apologies. I'm so damn proud of that. Look, folks, in our 4 years together, we made historic investments that have changed the course of the nation's future and will have a lasting impact for decades to come. And I'm here to say, to state the obvious, we could not have done this without the dedicated professionals here at the Department of Labor and all across this administration. Could not have done it. And I'm damn proud to be known as the most pro-labor administration in American history, because we are. We are. We make no apologies. Look, let me close with this. Francis Perkins once said, "The people are what matter to government, and the government should aim to give people, all people, under its jurisdiction, the best possible life." The best possible life. For my dad, it was a simple proposition. Everybody deserves a shot. No guarantee, but a shot. Everybody deserves a shot. All of you have helped upheld that vision, putting people first, no matter who they are. Another important legacy of our administration, making sure we learn from history, lift up stories that often have gone untold. Earlier this year, during Women's History Month, I signed the first ever executive order on recognizing and honoring women's history to increase representation of women in historic sites all across America. Today, I'm proud to stand here in the Francis Perkins building, headquarters of the Labor Department, to designate Francis Perkins Homestead in Newcastle, Maine, a national monument. And Secretary Holland is also going to be announcing 5 new National Historic Landmarks to honor women's contributions to American history. It includes Charleston Cigar Factory, excuse me, where Black women led worker strike that opposed gender and racial discrimination, advocated for better pay for working conditions. Look, too many people want to rewrite history or ignore it. Look, all we want to do is make sure we record history, the good, bad, and the indifferent, who we are. I was able to show up in an Indian country and apologize for what we did to Indian Americans, for the schools we made them go to and took them right off the reservations for their parents. Throughout our history, women's vision and achievements have strengthened this nation, to state the obvious. That's why I've kept my commitment to have an administration that looks like America. It includes having more women in senior access all across the board, starting with my amazing Vice President, Kamala Harris. It's about time we honor them in building an American Women's Museum and a History Museum on the Mall. And the Women's Suffrage National
En directo, el presidente saliente de Estados Unidos, Joe Biden, dando una rueda de prensa acerca de la situación del mercado de trabajo en el país norteamericano. Dice que son los trabajadores quienes han construido Estados Unidos y no Wall Street. Y les vamos a contar una noticia de última hora que en este caso tiene que ver con el presidente electo de Estados Unidos, con Donald Trump, que ha hablado del avistamiento de drones en Estados Unidos. Dice Donald Trump que el gobierno de Joe Biden sabe perfectamente lo que son los drones, pero oculta la verdad. Dice Donald Trump que el gobierno sabe lo que está pasando, que el ejército de Estados Unidos sabe de dónde partieron esos drones. Dice que, por ejemplo, si es un garaje, pues se puede entrar directamente a ese garaje. Dice que saben de dónde han venido y dónde van y que por alguna razón el gobierno no quiere hablar de eso. Y cree que sería mejor que dijeran qué es. Dice que los militares de Estados Unidos lo saben y el presidente lo sabe y que por alguna razón quiere mantener a la gente en suspenso. No se puede imaginar que sea el enemigo, porque si fuera el enemigo lo destruirían. Esa es la noticia de última hora. Donald Trump se ha referido al avistamiento de drones que se ha producido en los últimos días en New Jersey y que ha provocado una gran alarma social en Estados Unidos. Dice Donald Trump, acusa al gobierno saliente de Joe Biden que tanto el gobierno como el ejército son perfectamente conocedores de lo que está pasando con esos drones, con esos objetos no tripulados. Dice que el gobierno sabe lo que está pasando, que el ejército sabe lo que está pasando, pero que por algún motivo no quieren comentar la verdad y la ocultan. Dice que el gobierno sabe lo que son, de dónde vienen, a dónde van y que no lo quieren comentar. Dice que lo mejor sería que dijeran la verdad sobre estos objetos no tripulados, sobre estos drones.
What is happening? Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people. And they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster. Want to know the truth? They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Pues ya ha terminado también la comparecencia de Joe Biden. Participaba en un discurso en el Departamento de Trabajo sobre el estado del mercado laboral y de la economía de Estados Unidos. Decía que iba a ser el presidente de Estados Unidos, decía Biden, conocido por estar al lado de los trabajadores. Así es como terminamos esta edición especial del informativo del noticiero en Negocios Televisión. Se quedan con Money and Markets.
La macroeconomía es muy importante para poder saber el contexto general de los mercados y cómo aprovechar esa situación para beneficio de nuestras carteras. Aprende esto y mucho más en el máster de trading de Active Trades.
¿Te preocupa que tu inquilino no pague el alquiler? Sabemos que esto puede ser un desafío. Aunque los gastos son fáciles de calcular, el verdadero reto es gestionar la falta de pago por parte del inquilino. SEAC te ofrece una garantía de renta asegurada hasta que recuperes tu vivienda, pase el tiempo que pase. Relájate. SEAC se encarga de todo. Alquila tranquilo. SEAC responde.
¿Qué cuento quieres hoy? ¿Te cuento uno de los míos? ¿El del farmacéutico? ¿O el de María, la abogada?
El de Ana, la arquitecta.
Vale. Eras una niña que soñaba con crear los edificios más impresionantes de la Tierra. Se pasaba el día dibujándolos. Sabía que algún día acabarían llegando a lo más alto de cada ciudad. Y que cualquier persona...
Cada profesional tiene detrás una historia increíble. Creer en ella es lo que de verdad cuenta. Arquia Banca, el banco de los profesionales.
Silver Gold Patrimonio nace en 2018 con el objetivo de innovar en el mercado de los metales preciosos de inversión, ofreciendo nuevas alternativas para que cualquier persona, familia o empresa pueda entrar en el fantástico mundo de los metales de inversión de forma sencilla y acompañada por consultores expertos en el sector. Silver Gold Patrimonio quiere avanzar contigo. Silver Gold Patrimonio nace en 2018 con el objetivo de innovar en el mercado de los metales preciosos de inversión, ofreciendo nuevas alternativas para que cualquier persona, familia o empresa pueda entrar en el fantástico mundo de los metales de inversión de forma sencilla y acompañada por consultores expertos en el sector. Silver Gold Patrimonio quiere avanzar contigo.
Mudarte de ciudad es un gran cambio y alquilar tu casa puede parecer arriesgado. ¿Estará tu vivienda protegida? Con SEAC, olvídate de preocupaciones. Nosotros garantizamos tu renta pase lo que pase. Disfruta de tu nueva etapa con total confianza. Alquila tranquilo. SEAC responde.
Obtén tu máster con doble titulación de Tulane University, Estados Unidos y de UFM en Madrid, Master of Finance y Master in Management. Aplica.
Si buscas una formación de excelencia en finanzas o management, no puedes dejar de explorar los másteres de la Universidad Francisco Marroquín, la Casa de la Libertad. Este es un entorno académico único, con docentes de renombre que respeto mucho, como Juan Ramón Rayo y Gustavo Martínez. Además, sus programas ofrecen una doble titulación con Tulane University y la Universidad Francisco Marroquín, lo que aporta un gran valor internacional a tu carrera. En particular, el Master of Finance destaca por estar afiliado al prestigioso programa CFA, un sello de calidad reconocido en todo el mundo. Escanea el código QR para obtener más información. Te aseguro que vale la pena conocer todo lo que ofrecen.
Alemania ha destruido su economía y Francia va al borde del abismo. Esto no es fácil de conseguir y demuestra por qué cada vez que se apuesta por el socialismo y por el intervencionismo termina sufriendo la economía. Alemania decidió en el año 2012 comprar el mensaje de la ultraizquierda con respecto a la crisis de deuda de la Unión Europea y decidió que el problema de Europa era la austeridad. Abrazó el inflacionismo, aceptó que el Banco Central Europeo se dedicase a imprimir sin control moneda para mantener los desequilibrios de los estados. Adicionalmente, aceptó la mayor aberración monetaria que había vivido la eurozona, los tipos nominales negativos. Tipos nominales negativos, impresión de moneda y en el año 2020 el mayor aumento de masa monetaria de la historia de la eurozona. ¿Y qué es lo que pasó? Ahora sufren inflación y estancamiento. Mientras tanto, esas políticas mal llamadas expansivas, lo único que han hecho ha sido traer más deuda y peor crecimiento en la eurozona. No solamente abrazó el inflacionismo, sino que en Alemania la decisión de cerrar las centrales nucleares como una especie de medida innovadora que iba a demostrar al mundo que era el país más verde, etcétera, ha tenido efectos devastadores. Se cerraron las centrales nucleares, se decidió el cierre de una gran parte de ellas y en medio de la mayor crisis energética de su historia, continuaron y cerraron las que quedaban. Increíble, ¿verdad? Esto solo se le puede ocurrir a un político. No solamente fue un error el cierre de las centrales nucleares, más de 200.000 millones de euros en subvenciones a energías volátiles e intermitentes llevaron a que hoy Alemania, prácticamente el 40% de su producción eléctrica venga de energías fósiles, es decir, consume más carbón, 25% de su producción eléctrica, consume más energías fósiles, 76% de lo que es el consumo energético. Esto no se consigue fácilmente. Abrazar el inflacionismo, política energética equivocada, pero hay que seguir. Alemania decidió no solamente implementar, sino ser el líder absoluto en la implementación de la Agenda 2030 y de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible que venían desde una Comisión Europea y desde una Unión Europea tomada por activistas, porque esos objetivos son perfectamente inocuos. El problema es cuando se utiliza para introducir el totalitarismo. ¿Y qué es lo que ha pasado? Introduciendo la Agenda 2030, se ha cargado su sector automovilístico. El sector automovilístico está completamente destruido en un entorno en el que, por un lado, le ha regalado el futuro a China, que tiene la ventaja competitiva en tecnología y vehículos eléctricos, y además ha perdido la oportunidad de fortalecer su sector automovilístico por la decisión de prohibir los motores de combustión en el año 2030. Increíble, ¿verdad? Adicionalmente, el sector primario, agricultura y ganadería, completamente destruidos también. Esto es parte del desastre de Alemania. Alemania tiene toda la capacidad para liderar el mundo, ¿eh? No necesita que se le den ayudas a un sector que es competitivo y a unas industrias que son competitivas. Lo que necesita es que se les deje de poner trabas. Francia nos muestra otro factor por el cual nunca deberíamos comprar y aceptar el socialismo. El desastre de Francia demuestra que todos aquellos que nos dicen que la receta para el progreso es mayor gasto público, mayores impuestos, mayor sector público, se equivocan. Se equivocan claramente. Francia tiene uno de los mayores niveles de gasto público del mundo. El sector público pesa más del 58% del Producto Interior Bruto. Prácticamente el 22% de la fuerza laboral trabaja para el sector público. No solamente eso, sino que tiene elevadísimos impuestos. ¿Cuál es la realidad de Francia? Que ese supuesto estado de bienestar no solamente deja una enorme deuda y un déficit completamente insostenible, sino que además la economía no crece. ¿Qué es lo que termina pasando? Los contribuyentes están asfixiados. Los que reciben las subvenciones están descontentos. ¿Por qué? Porque se convierten en una subclase dependiente sin oportunidades. La economía no crece, el déficit está descontrolado y la deuda también. Ese es el problema del socialismo. El problema del socialismo es que 2 más 2 nos suman 22. Y Francia es la demostración de por qué aumentar el gasto público y aumentar el sector público no solamente no son la solución, sino que son el problema. Alemania es la demostración de por qué cuando una economía rica, con una economía productiva, una economía líder en exportaciones y en industria, decide implementar medidas intervencionistas completa y absolutamente ridículas impuestas por activistas que toman el discurso político y convencen a los ciudadanos para después destruir la economía, es un absoluto desastre. Alemania y Francia. Ahora, aquí, en España, en el cohete, nos encontramos con un país en el que se están repitiendo exactamente todas las políticas que han llevado a Francia al estancamiento y a Alemania a una situación absolutamente devastada y encima nos llamamos el cohete. Seguid defendiendo la libertad. La economía española está en una encrucijada. Hablamos de crecimiento robusto y el gobierno vende la propaganda de un ranking del Economist que, entre otras cosas, lo que explicaba era que la economía española, si progresa, es gracias a las reformas que se hicieron hace una década con el Partido Popular. Pero lo más peligroso de la euforia y de la propaganda es que normalmente lo que lleva es a que se olviden las verdaderas reformas que hay que llevar a cabo. Y para hablar de todo ello, nadie mejor que Juan Bravo, responsable de Economía del Partido Popular. ¿Cómo estás, Juan?
Hola, ¿qué tal, Daniel? Encantado de estar contigo.
Oye, ya sabes que estás en tu casa. Vamos a hablar de este ranking del Economist que tanto vende el gobierno con esa euforia tan espectacular. A mí me parece increíble que el gobierno se dedique a vender esa propaganda cuando lo que está demostrando es que lleva 5 años con el Producto Interior Bruto per cápita estancado, cuando la deuda sigue aumentando y solamente se reduce porque tenemos más inflación y más gasto público. Y la otra, por supuesto, es que todo esto está ocurriendo en medio de los fondos Next Generation, ¿no?
Pues sí, la verdad es que lo has explicado perfectamente, es el conjunto perfecto, pero ellos hacen un análisis, presumen de The Economist. Como tú bien has dicho, Economist dice que esto viene de las reformas de hace una década, del sistema financiero y de la reforma laboral. Por cierto, la que más han criticado ellos.
Eso es.
En segundo lugar, hay que explicar que ese ranking no es en términos absolutos donde se vive mejor. De hecho, Colombia está la sexta, sino quién ha recuperado mejor. Y da 5 variables, de las cuales a la que más peso le da es al PIB, y no, le da al PIB y a la reducción del desempleo. Sí. Qué casualidad que son 2 variables en las que todo el mundo estamos dudando de qué están haciendo con el PIB desde el INE, claro, porque hemos visto revisiones y tú lo has denunciado muchas veces, o en el desempleo, que tenemos los famosos fijos discontinuos. Claro. Oye, qué circunstancia. Y las otras 3 variables, como el tema bursátil del déficit, España está a la 10, la 13, la 15. Es decir, le dan más valor a lo que le interesa más a España y da la casualidad que eso es donde más está influyendo ese confiscación, intervencionismo de Sánchez, claro, y está llevando unas revisiones que ningún otro país en el ámbito de la Unión Europea, claro, está teniendo, ¿no? Y luego, por último, ¿y los ciudadanos en el CIS? ¿Qué piensan? ¿Que están mejor o peor que antes? Los ciudadanos en el CIS consideran que están peor que antes, que su economía, la micro, la de verdad, claro, no les está funcionando bien, con lo cual, claro, está el cohete.
Bueno, es que yo creo que esa es la cosa. O sea, este gobierno le ha pasado, ha hecho exactamente, de hecho, lo que hizo la administración de Biden en Estados Unidos, que fue intentar dopar al máximo las cifras titulares, ¿no? El Producto Interior Bruto y el desempleo, pero claro, cuando te dejas la renta disponible de las familias, la renta real, etcétera, etcétera, pues lo que resulta es que fíjate que el CIS, que no se le puede tildar de independiente en muchos casos, te muestra que la gente percibe que está peor. La gente está peor porque se ha subido muchísimo los impuestos y ha aumentado mucho, además, el impuesto inflacionario. ¿Cómo ves que cuáles son las cosas que deberían ser ahora mismo urgentes de cara a unos presupuestos que parece que van a retrasarse, incluso prorrogarse? ¿Qué son las cosas que se tienen que hacer en España, desde tu punto de vista?
Bueno, lo primero sería darle de nuevo importancia al presupuesto, ¿no? Claro. Este gobierno, de 6 años que lleva gobernando, 3 con presupuesto, 3 sin presupuesto. Estamos en diciembre y ni se espera el nuevo presupuesto. Luego has dicho una cosa muy importante, lo que es el crecimiento está dopado principalmente por el gasto público. Claro. Por el gasto público. Eso quiere decir, oye, me estoy gastando dinero de todos los españoles, ¿vale? Pero dinero que tengo o que no tengo, Daniel, eso es. Que es lo que tú decías. No, que no tengo además. Con lo cual estamos endeudando a las generaciones futuras. Con 160.000 millones de Next Generation, con 40.000 millones del marco 21-27 que prácticamente no se ha empezado a ejecutar, y sin embargo vemos que en Valencia, para ayudar a gente que nadie discutiría, ningún economista de prestigio como vosotros dudaría que hay que enchufar, ahí sí que hay que enchufar dinero para ayudar a recuperar la economía, ahí vemos que no. A eso no, a otros sitios sí. ¿Qué hay que hacer? Pues hay que volver a recuperar la seriedad, hay que volver a no gastarte lo que no tienes, hay que volver a tener presupuestos, hay que volver a que las instituciones sean respetadas porque sean independientes de verdad, que no salga un ministro de un ministerio para directamente irse al Banco de España, o que cuando haya nombramientos, sean nombramientos en los que se compartan para criterios técnicos de gente que sea solvente, para que todos confiemos en eso. Y luego hay reformas de nuestro sistema de funcionamiento que tendremos que hacer. Hay que hacer una reforma del sistema fiscal, sin duda, y a la baja. Sí. Este año se van a recaudar, entre cotizaciones sociales e impuestos, 150.000 millones de euros más que en el año 2018, Daniel. Y si tú dijeras, ese gran esfuerzo ha significado 2 cosas. Estamos en equilibrio presupuestario y hemos hecho grandes reformas en el país. Alguien, hasta los que defendemos que siempre que se puede, hay que bajar los impuestos, podrías decir, tipo Milei, el esfuerzo ha dado su recompensa, pero no. Seguimos con déficit, seguimos con deuda. Oye, la deuda son aproximadamente 450.000 millones más. A un tipo de interés medio del 2% son 9.000 millones. Claro. Eso es prácticamente el 100% de la inversión que se hace en España. Eso es de lo que nos ha privado Sánchez con su política. Entonces, esa parte de la fiscalidad y luego el mercado laboral. Aquí oímos hablar de no trabajar. Es el ministerio del no trabajo. Tenemos 3,3 millones de personas que no trabajan, que no tienen la oportunidad de trabajar, y 1 millón de puestos de trabajo en el mercado laboral que no se cubren. Que no se cumplen. Cualquier ministro de trabajo, su aspiración por la sociedad, por las personas, por la economía, sería intentar ver ¿Qué hago para que este millón de puestos de trabajo se puedan cubrir con este 3,3? Mi objetivo no sería defender el que la gente no trabaje.
Claro.
Mi objetivo es que la gente tenga oportunidades para ganar un sueldo y luego libremente elegir si quiere comprar o alquilar un piso, si quiere comprar o utilizar un renting de un coche o moverse de otra manera. Que la gente pueda decidir libremente. Pero han entrado en una dinámica que lo que pretenden es quitar libertad, con lo cual las reformas, ¿qué dice el Banco de España? Oiga, tenemos problemas en la formación no está adecuada al mercado laboral.
Claro.
Hagámoslo. Y luego, yo veo mucha crítica al informe de Draghi, pero cojámoslo mollar, simplifiquemos, reduzcamos trabas, veamos lo que hacen otros países y los que lo están haciendo les funciona.
Claro.
Singapur le funciona, Estonia le funciona. Pues intentemos hacerlo, que eso no vale dinero.
Claro.
Eso es BOE, simplemente. Eso es quito BOE, quito BOE, quito BOE, quito BOE. Y eso nos daría opciones.
Cuando tú miras esos datos, claro, dices, fíjate, el Producto Interior Bruto per cápita de España entre 2019 y 2024 va a aumentar aproximadamente un 1%. Y eso con un aumento de 350.000 millones de deuda después de haber aumentado los impuestos en 150.000 millones de recaudación.
Entre cotizaciones e impuestos comparado con el 18.
Es que es alucinante.
El 50% casi más. Vamos a pasar de unos 310.000 a algo más de 450.000.
Es que si lo piensas, si uno piensa, no, es que hemos escuchado siempre, hay que subir los impuestos porque hay que reducir el déficit y hay que reducir la deuda. Año 2018, tú hubieses utilizado esa recaudación extraordinaria para reducir la deuda, hoy España tendría una deuda de menos del 80%, 85% del Producto Interior Bruto. Es increíble.
Es increíble.
Es que yo siempre digo que los altos impuestos no son una medida para reducir la deuda, sino una medida para justificarla, ¿sabes? Porque claro, como pasa en Francia, viene el nuevo primer ministro y dice, oye, no se preocupen que yo voy a subir los impuestos. Y entonces otro año más, 5% de déficit. ¿Cómo ves tú el tema de la deuda? Porque claro, nos dicen, no, si la deuda se ha bajado, pero no se ha bajado. Claro, los pasivos totales de las administraciones públicas son 2,1 billones de euros, es un 140% del Producto Interior Bruto casi.
Y sobre todo, ellos mismos en sus documentos dicen que eso lo pagarán las generaciones futuras con más impuestos.
Claro.
Que eso habría que hacerle ver a la sociedad que está hasta los 30, 35, incluso 40 años, que les están hipotecando.
Claro.
Si tú compras una casa, pides una hipoteca, empiezas a pagarla, a tu hijo le dejarás una deuda, pero le dejas un bien. Pero que aquí no estamos dejando un bien. Claro. Estamos utilizando el préstamo para irnos de vacaciones. Cuando vuelvan, no hay nada y la deuda sigue. Tú piensas además, por lo que decía, yo cuando me dices lo de subir y bajar impuestos, porque parece que se convierte en una guerra de izquierda o derechas y yo creo que es una guerra de buenos y malos gestores.
Claro.
Explico. Gobierno de España, deuda disparada, crecimiento, ¿no? El año anterior, el 2,5%, qué bien estamos, subiendo impuestos. Portugal, y deuda y déficit. Portugal baja impuestos con un gobierno también socialista.
Sí, sí.
Hace un crecimiento no del 2,5, ojo, del 2,1. ¿Y cuánto déficit? Cero.
Claro.
Hace superávit.
Claro.
Cataluña, impuestos súper altos. Más déficit que nadie, más deuda que nadie. En Andalucía, bajamos los impuestos, equilibramos el presupuesto.
Claro.
Es decir, al final, subir o bajar, porque para poder bajar los impuestos, lo primero que haces es mirar la cuenta de gastos.
Claro.
¿Dónde puedo ahorrar? Aquí, ahorro. ¿Y ahora qué hago con esto?
Claro.
Estos 300 millones que me ahorro aquí, me los llevo a la parte de impuestos y se los rebajo a la gente. ¿Para qué? Para que inviertan, para que gasten, para que consuman. Y con eso, además, consigo incrementar.
Claro.
No es que yo porque baje impuestos voy a recaudar más. No, es porque he analizado el gasto, me lo llevo al ingreso y genero y provoco que la gente, en vez de pensar en tener que pagar impuestos, lo que creen es en que, oye, yo con esto pues me puedo comprar, puedo avanzar en esto, puedo cambiar de coche, puedo mejorar mi casa, puedo pagar ropa, y eso genera actividad económica.
Claro.
Pero es que además está demostrado, y repito, no de izquierda a derecha, porque en Portugal lo hacía la izquierda.
No, y además que no es una cuestión de izquierdas o derechas, es una cuestión de lógica económica. Al final, tú tienes que los impuestos no se fijan para que tú ingreses más. Los impuestos se fijan en base a la realidad económica de un país. Correcto. España es un país de microempresas. Tú no puedes poner impuestos de país rico a un país en el que tienes la mayoría microempresas y donde tienes 3,8 millones de personas desempleadas apuntadas al SEPE. Es una absoluta locura. Y además es que es muy típico de las sociedades en las que se penaliza muchísimo la productividad y con alto desempleo, tener alto paro y a la vez imposibilidad de cubrir un montón de puestos de trabajo. Eso es un gran problema. Pero cuando miras los presupuestos de este año, por ejemplo, del que viene, si hubiese que hacer una racionalización del presupuesto, ¿por dónde tendríamos que meter la tijera?
Bueno, yo creo que es verdad que siempre se habla del concepto de presupuesto base cero y luego en la práctica es muy complicado de aplicar o requeriría tiempo, pero creo que hay elementos, por ejemplo, para empezar, ¿hace falta un gobierno con 22 ministerios en marzo?
Claro.
Y tú dices, y hay gente que dice, no, pero eso no sería mucho dinero. Bueno, eso se puede calcular en aproximadamente unos 1.000 millones de euros. Oye, no es menor, ¿eh?
No es poco, claro.
El impuesto a la banca que pretenden cobrar son 1.400 millones. O sea, sería poder quitar un impuesto para poder dárselo a los ciudadanos, ¿vale? Ahí tienes un elemento claro. ¿Hace falta tantos asesores con una administración tan grande?
Claro.
¿O podemos tirar de los propios funcionarios que hay dentro de la administración?
Claro.
En tercer lugar, la administración. Si mucha gente, entre el 35 y el 50%, se van a jubilar de aquí al año 2030, ¿no sería el momento de reconducir la administración hacia lo que necesitamos? Hacia sanidad, educación, meter más tecnología, más inteligencia artificial, para que trabajos administrativos que no aportan valor añadido, cosa que si lo aporta el ámbito sanitario, lo pudiésemos hacer. Yo creo que sería una partida que nos permitiría ahorrar y además tener más gente donde más hace falta. Y eso nos permitiría dar mejores servicios. Luego, ¿qué pasaría con la deuda si salimos con un mensaje de que queremos estar en el equilibrio presupuestario, que no vamos a gastar lo que no tengamos? ¿Qué es más fácil, prestarle dinero a Cristiano Ronaldo o a mí?
Claro.
A Cristiano Ronaldo, pues sabes que te lo va a devolver más fácil.
Claro.
¿A quién le vas a cobrar más interés? A que tiene más riesgo, a mí.
Claro.
Oye, pues si nosotros vamos a pagar en torno a 40.000 millones de euros, ¿podríamos reducir un 5%? Un 5% de lo que pagamos de intereses, porque seamos más creíbles? Esos son 2.000 millones de euros mañana mismo. ¿Verdad?
Claro.
Fíjate, o sea, análisis. ¿Nosotros deberíamos perder dinero en correos?
Claro.
En el CENIO, Centros Nacionales de Investigaciones Oncológicas, ¿tiene justificación que se esté utilizando el dinero de la Fundación para comprar obras de arte en vez de para contratar investigadores?
Claro.
O sea,
estamos hablando de... Claro, es que eso
suma.
Yo creo que esa es la clave, porque fíjate que en este rato que tú has estado comentando, íbamos sacando, yo iba haciendo cálculos, iba diciendo, pues ya, es que ya ha sacado 10.000 millones, así, en poco. Pero fuera de todo eso, es lo importante de recordar lo que se puede hacer reduciendo pequeñas partidas, ¿verdad?
Correcto.
Y reduciendo pequeñas partidas que no tienen nada que ver con eso que te intentan inmediatamente vender de que vas a acabar con la sanidad y con la educación.
Al revés.
Al revés.
Es al revés.
Exacto.
Daniel, o sea, tú donde tienes que poner el foco es en lo que la gente te requiere sí o sí.
Claro.
Y la gente quiere, yo quiero tener seguridad en la sanidad.
Sí.
Yo quiero que si voy al médico sea bien atendido, si me tienen que operar, que los médicos, los enfermeros, los celadores estén bien pagados para que tengan una buena sensación de empresa y trabajen bien. En la educación, donde nos están diciendo que tenemos que orientarla. No nos dicen que gastemos más, nos dicen que gastemos mejor. Y luego la dependencia, porque es como nuestro seguro.
Claro.
Si mañana a ti o a mí nos pasa algo, lo que nos gustaría es que nuestra sociedad nos responda. Oye, fíjate, se aprobó lo de la ELA. Y el otro día leía a Jordi Sabaté, decía que todavía no ha empezado.
Claro.
¿De verdad?
De verdad.
Cuesta 50, 70, 80 millones de euros. No o sea, ¿eso es progresismo?
Claro.
Eso no es progresismo.
Claro.
Progresismo es que hay gente que tiene un problema muy grave, que le supone un problema personal, un problema familiar, un problema económico, y que la sociedad, los 48 millones de españoles, decimos, ojalá no le toque a nadie, pero al que le toque su país, todos estamos con ellos. Esto es como de Valencia. Nadie duda. Hemos visto, es un país, España, súper solidario, en el que está llegando más dinero de particulares que de la administración.
Totalmente.
Yo el otro día le decía al ministro Bolaño, nos tiene que hacer una reflexión, que somos funcionarios, ministro.
Claro.
Que llegue más dinero y más rápido del sector privado que de la administración.
Es que llegue, exacto.
Eso nos lleva también a qué tamaño tendría que tener la administración y si no deberíamos creer de verdad en esa colaboración público-privada o privado-pública como país.
Claro, yo creo que sí, efectivamente. Un montón de cosas en las que se puede hacer un montón, y es un gusto que vengas y nos lo expliques, y sobre todo lo que es un gusto es que vengas la próxima vez, el año que viene, para continuar hablando de todo esto. Mil gracias, Juan.
Como siempre, muchísimas gracias por invitarme y por poder aprender. Como
ya
siempre,
sabes que estás en tu casa.
Muchas gracias.
El año 2024 ha sido un año excepcional para la inversión, y además Muchos de vosotros recordaréis que hemos estado escuchando durante todo el final de 2023 que 2024 iba a ser un año muy malo, etcétera, etcétera. Y ahora hay un montón de inversores que nos estáis viendo que probablemente se hayan perdido este rally y que piensen, me he quedado atrás, es el momento de invertir, hay que buscar oportunidades. Bueno, pues para hablar de todo ello, ¿quién mejor que mi buen amigo José Miguel Maté, consejero delegado de Tresis? ¿Cómo estás?
¿Qué tal, Daniel? Muy bien, encantado de estar aquí.
Oye, ¿es buen momento para invertir? Yo siempre le digo a la audiencia que el momento para invertir es ayer, pero ¿es buen momento para invertir con máximos históricos?
Pues sí, coincido contigo, Daniel. Siempre es buen momento para invertir si tienes las condiciones, si se dan las condiciones y circunstancias para hacerlo. Quiero decir, si tienes tiempo, tienes horizonte temporal, siempre va a haber oportunidades y, lógicamente, es verdad que este 2024 ha sido un año magnífico, pero es que el 2023 también lo fue.
Claro.
Y como bien decías, a finales del 23 había muchísima gente diciendo, hay que estar fuera porque esto ha subido muchísimo. Es verdad que ha habido mucha gente que se lo ha perdido y ese es un factor también para seguir tranquilo, porque hay un colchón de liquidez en el mercado muy importante que a nosotros nos deja relativamente tranquilos.
Claro.
Luego podemos hablar de cuáles son los riesgos y peligros, ¿no? Pero es verdad que hay un entorno favorable para invertir, para seguir invertido, y esto yo creo que siempre es así, ¿no? Y si miramos hacia atrás, a mí me da mucha pena cuando veo las rentabilidades vamos a hablar de los fondos de inversión, que son el principal vehículo o el mejor vehículo para invertir un patrimonio a medio y largo plazo. Digo, si miro hacia atrás y veo las rentabilidades de los productos de renta fija, de corto plazo, de largo plazo y de renta variable,
sí, pues
te das cuenta de que hay que estar invertido y es muy, iba a decir peligroso, no, es triste perderte esa posibilidad de invertir, de sacar rentabilidades a medio y largo plazo, ese interés compuesto que nos va dando la renta variable, ¿no? Por tanto, contestando de manera breve a la pregunta, es buen momento para invertir y creemos que lo va a seguir siendo, con independencia de los movimientos que pueda haber en el mercado.
Sobre todo yo creo que la gente tiene que ser consciente de que lo más importante a la hora de mirar la inversión es protegerte contra la inflación, ¿de acuerdo? Fíjate qué curioso cómo la gente en general que nos escribe y que nos ve entiende perfectamente que hay un riesgo de inflación persistente y, sin embargo, a la vez está pensando, ¿tengo que salirme de inversión? Si consideras que va a haber inflación persistente, deberías tener en cuenta que la mejor manera para protegerte es la inversión. Pero la gente no hace esa conexión entre inflación y bolsa, ¿verdad?
Bueno, yo creo que es fruto de, y no es el caso de las personas que nos están escuchando, ¿no? Pero yo creo que hay una condición inicial que es la falta de cultura financiera.
Ajá.
Y esto yo creo que lo refleja de una manera extraordinaria, ¿no? Es curioso que en España prácticamente no, mucho más del 50% del ahorro está todavía depositado,
sí,
y utilizo la palabra adrede, en depósitos a corto plazo,
sí,
con una rentabilidad que nunca va a batir a la inflación. Pero además de eso, hay mucho fondo de inversión en activos monetarios, renta fija a muy corto plazo o, en el mejor de los casos, renta fija a 2, 3, 4 años, que sigue siendo corto plazo, ¿no? Por tanto, batir a la inflación con este tipo de instrumentos es prácticamente imposible.
Claro.
Y la inflación está ahí. Y sigue estando ahí, y va a seguir estándolo, ¿no? durante algún tiempo. Por tanto, efectivamente, creo que el origen está en esta falta de cultura financiera que automáticamente identifica los fondos de inversión, para empezar, a riesgo, y no te digo ya la renta variable riesgo, que por supuesto que lo tiene, pero igual que otros activos financieros. Y si no nos remontamos a la gran crisis financiera, donde había un montón de vehículos o instrumentos que parecían totalmente seguros, y fíjate lo que pasó, ¿no? Por tanto, falta de cultura financiera, ese asociar riesgo, fondo de inversión riesgo, renta variable riesgo, sí, pero si tienes horizonte temporal y lo haces de una manera adecuada, te va a pagar.
Claro.
Y vuelvo otra vez a las rentabilidades históricas, ¿no? En 5, 10, 15 años, el único activo que te da una rentabilidad de doble dígito o que se acerca al doble dígito es la renta variable. Y eso es lo que necesitas para batir a la inflación, por supuesto.
Un montón de gente, cuando habla de renta variable, piensa en el índice de nuestro país, de España, en el caso de los que estáis viendo desde España, del índice de tu propio país, ¿no? Y una de las cosas que suele ocurrir es que se le tiene miedo a la renta variable en América Latina, que nos sigue mucha gente, en España, porque los índices bursátiles de esos países pues no lo han hecho particularmente bien o además los valores, digamos, estrella o aparentemente bandera de esos países no lo han hecho bien. Entonces, a mucha gente le da miedo la renta variable porque ha invertido en el pasado y no ha ganado dinero. ¿Qué le podemos decir a esa gente?
Bueno, todos tenemos un sesgo de proximidad, ¿no? Lo que tenemos cerca es lo que más conocemos, lo que más nos gusta y, por tanto, es normal tener este sesgo e invertir en lo que más cerca está, ¿no? Yo creo que la primera palabra que tenemos que invertir que tenemos que aprender cuando invertimos es diversificar. Y eso juega o va con activos financieros de renta fija, renta variable, pero lógicamente, y dentro de la renta fija, distintos plazos y distintos tipos de riesgo, y dentro de la renta variable, distintas geografías, distintos sectores, distintos estilos de inversión. Entonces, invertir solamente en tu país es perder un montón de oportunidades.
Claro.
Yo creo que, si vuelvo otra vez a estas rentabilidades históricas, ¿no?, de los productos a medio y largo plazo, el país y, por tanto, la bolsa, o mejor dicho, la bolsa que mejor resultado ha tenido en los últimos 5, 10, 15 años, 20 años, ha sido la bolsa norteamericana. Si estamos en España o estamos en cualquier país de Latinoamérica y no invertimos en la mayor economía del mundo, donde más oportunidades hay desde el punto de vista empresarial, estamos renunciando, rechazando de plano aprovechar esas oportunidades que dan estos países. Hay otras zonas geográficas donde también hay oportunidades, hay otros estilos de inversión. Deberíamos decir que también el mejor comportamiento lo ha tenido el sector tecnológico. Qué casualidad, ¿no? Estados Unidos es el país donde más oportunidades hay dentro o mayores empresas tecnológicas hay, ¿no? Por tanto, lo primero que tenemos que hacer es diversificar, renunciar a ese sesgo de proximidad o ser conscientes de que lo tenemos e empezar a invertir a nivel internacional. Aquí en España ha cambiado muchísimo, pero no hace tanto tiempo prácticamente el 100% del ahorro de los españoles, estoy hablando a principios de este siglo, parezco un poco mayor ya, ¿no?, pero a principios de los 2000, prácticamente el 100% del ahorro de los españoles estaba invertido en España.
Sí.
Invertido en España en depósitos, en letras, en bonos, en acciones españolas. Hoy, afortunadamente, eso ha cambiado. Pero, desde luego, todavía nos queda muchísimo recorrido para realmente internacionalizar nuestras carteras, ¿no?, que es algo que tenemos que hacer sin lugar a dudas.
Claro. Yo siempre digo que hay que diferenciar entre las empresas a las que les enviarías tu currículum vitae para que te contraten y donde invertir. No es lo mismo. Yo creo que también la gente ve que pierden oportunidades porque miran los niveles a donde están los activos bursátiles en este momento y dicen, me lo perdí, ¿vale? Y no se dan cuenta de que hay toda una paleta de inversiones mucho mayores. ¿Qué es lo que le recomendaríamos a una persona que percibe que la bolsa es muy difícil? Porque parece como que hay miedo al asesoramiento.
Bueno, yo creo que también tenemos que ser conscientes de nuestras limitaciones, ¿no? Yo creo que ninguno, pues si pretendemos saber de todo, pues es un poco absurdo, ¿no? En el mundo de la inversión hay profesionales que se dedican exclusivamente a analizar dónde hay oportunidades, dónde hay riesgos, para eliminar unos e invertir en los otros, ¿no?, en los primeros. Por tanto, contar con un asesor, el asesoramiento financiero no es solamente al revés. Yo creo que es la última parte del asesoramiento, es precisamente dónde voy a invertir mañana o el próximo mes o el próximo trimestre. El asesoramiento tiene que empezar por ayudarte a conocer cuáles son tus objetivos desde el punto de vista financiero. Ahí es donde empieza el asesoramiento financiero. Nosotros, el mundo se complica bastante, ¿no? Desde el punto de vista de los mercados financieros, por supuesto, pero también desde el punto de vista del ahorro y la inversión. Quiero decir que todos tenemos un socio lamentablemente mayoritario, que es Hacienda, y cuando invertimos, todos los productos financieros tienen su coste fiscal.
Claro.
Hay veces que invertir en un producto financiero que puede tener una buena rentabilidad financiera deja de ser atractivo por la rentabilidad financiero-fiscal. Por tanto, el asesoramiento empieza primero por conocer cuáles son tus objetivos vitales, qué plazo tienes, cuánto riesgo puedo asumir. Esto rompo ya un mantra, ¿no? Y luego podemos hablar del mantra de los máximos, no invertir en máximos, pero rompo un mantra. Tú tienes un perfil de riesgo. Eso es verdad psicológicamente, pero no es verdad desde el punto de vista de tu cartera financiera.
Ya.
¿Por qué? Porque tú puedes tener objetivos a muy corto plazo, a medio plazo, a largo plazo. Y por tanto, el riesgo que puedes asumir en el primero, segundo o tercero de esos objetivos es muy distinto. ¿Por qué? Porque, como decíamos antes, el riesgo tiende a disminuir cuando inviertes a largo plazo.
Claro.
Y por tanto, tú crees que no puedes invertir en renta variable cuando dices, oye, es que yo sé que a 5 o 10 años, por supuesto de una manera profesional, con un buen asesor financiero que te guíe a lo largo del camino, que va a haber muchos baches y muchos momentos complicados, digo, con ese buen asesoramiento financiero tú puedes invertir a largo plazo y asumir mucho más riesgo del que tú inicialmente crees que puedes asumir.
Claro, esa es otra cosa que a mí me parece que es muy importante, porque mucha gente dice, claro, es que esto de invertir en bolsa es muy difícil, no te lo niego, pero es que yo no tengo ni idea de lo que es un motor de un coche. Yo no tengo ni idea de empastarme las muelas, ¿no? Voy a un dentista o voy a un taller, ¿no? Es que no sé por qué en inversión parece que el do it yourself, ¿no? el hazlo tú mismo, pues se convierte en casi como una obligación, incluso para gente, porque yo lo puedo entender si es que te gusta, te interesa, te apetece y tienes el tiempo, pero para la gente que no lo tiene, el decir, bueno, pues entonces lo voy a dejar en un depósito, es literalmente regalarle el dinero a la inflación, el impuesto escondido.
Sin duda alguna. Yo creo que la gran diferencia y la gran ventaja que tenemos hoy en día es que hay muchísimas fuentes de información donde contrastar, donde analizar, donde comparar. Pero siempre tenemos que ir otra vez digo lo mismo, ¿no? A vehículos que sean fiscalmente eficientes. Sí. Ahí es donde entran los fondos de inversión. Hay un universo enorme, ingente de fondos de inversión. Otra vez podría decir, pues este que ha tenido... Es prácticamente imposible acertar lo que va a pasar, ninguno lo sabemos, ¿no? Lo que va a pasar mañana o el próximo mes o los próximos años con un vehículo que ha sido bueno históricamente no tiene por qué serlo mañana. Igual que una acción que ha sido o ha tenido un buen comportamiento los últimos años no tiene por qué tenerlos los próximos, ¿no? Claro. Pero para eso están los profesionales, para eso están los gestores de los fondos de inversión que te permiten invertir en cualquier tipo de activo a nivel global con los mismos costes, el mismo tratamiento fiscal, la misma operativa que si invirtieras exclusivamente en acciones españolas, claro, ¿no? Por decirlo, o de cualquier otro país. Por tanto, acudir a un profesional que te guíe, que te ayude, es fundamental. Lo dices muy bien, hay gente que le encantan los mercados, que le encantan comparar, y hay herramientas.
Claro.
Hace años no existían herramientas comparativas, bueno, en fin, no vamos a remontarnos al pasado, ¿no? Pero hoy tienes un montón de herramientas que te permiten comparar, analizar, ver si un producto está bien estructurado o no, ver y comparar los costes, por supuesto, pero también puedes delegar o dejar que alguien que se dedica exclusivamente a eso y que tiene todas esas herramientas y muchas más para ver si un producto es bueno, si es el momento de invertir en este o en otro. Y lógicamente, y aquí es donde otra vez los fondos de inversión tienen una gran ventaja, si un producto deja de ser bueno, puedes traspasar ese vehículo a otro sin coste fiscal y por tanto tú puedes realizar una gestión de medio y largo plazo con instrumentos que no tienen un impacto fiscal como pueden tener las acciones, ¿no? Por tanto, déjate asesorar, ayuda, contrata a una persona que te lleve por el camino, que te ayude a identificar esos objetivos vitales, qué plazos tienes, qué riesgo puedes asumir, a componer una cartera diseñar un plan y luego seguirlo, ¿no? Que ese es el objetivo que debe tener todo asesoramiento financiero.
Y cuando la gente, claro, mucha gente lo que se encuentra es con una percepción de oportunidad comparado con el riesgo que están dispuestos a asumir muy diferente, ¿no? Por ejemplo, nosotros tenemos un montón de seguidores y de suscriptores que nos dicen hay que invertir todo en Bitcoin, ¿no? Y luego Bitcoin te llega, oye, pues vale, te llega a 100.000, pero se quedan 90 y pico mil y no hay, de repente se reduce completamente la visión de qué es lo que hay que hacer. La gente mira mucho hacia atrás, ¿no? Y parece que le tiene como demasiada querencia a invertir en aquello que han visto que ha subido mucho en vez de en diversificar, ¿no? Explica a la gente eso de diversificar, porque hay la gente que dice, no, yo diversifico, entonces tengo un banco español, una eléctrica española, una telefónica española, una industrial española, eso no es diversificar, ¿no?
Bueno, dos cosas, ¿no? El invertir, como decimos nosotros, mirando al retrovisor, no es una buena idea. Eso nunca es una buena idea, lo que hemos comentado, ¿no? No porque haya estado subiendo una serie de meses, años, va a seguir subiendo. Eso hay que borrarlo, ¿no? Y siempre mirar al futuro y mirar las expectativas que tiene un país o que tiene un sector o que tiene una empresa para ver si es bueno, malo o regular. Me paso al tema de la diversificación. La diversificación es esencial. Esto a ver, nos lo enseñaban de pequeñitos, ¿no? No lleves todos los huevos en la misma cesta, porque si te caes se te van a romper todos, ¿no? Pues esto es lo mismo. Tú puedes hacer un análisis magnífico con una empresa o con un sector o con un país y equivocarte.
Claro.
Porque hay circunstancias que rompen esas expectativas y puede ser desde temas políticos, temas regulatorios. Aquí en España tenemos muchos ejemplos de sectores que eran, esto va a ser todo maravilloso y de repente viene un cambio regulatorio y deja de serlo. Por tanto, se retira el dinero y la cotización o las cotizaciones de las empresas de ese sector dejan de tener tanto valor como se había en un momento dado estimado, ¿no? Por tanto, diversificar es invertir en distintos estilos de inversión, invertir en distintos activos. Hablábamos de bonos y acciones. Es invertir en distintas zonas geográficas, distintos sectores, etcétera, etcétera. ¿Cuál es la combinación ideal? Depende de tu horizonte temporal y de tu perfil de riesgo. ¿Cuánto riesgo estás dispuesto a asumir? Dicho de otra manera, ¿cuánto riesgo puedes asumir? ¿Cuál es la pérdida máxima que puedes asumir cuando tú vayas a necesitar tu dinero?
Claro.
Y esto yo me canso de decírselo a mis hijos, ¿no? Mis hijos, pues afortunadamente, han estado invirtiendo porque han tenido un pequeño ahorro y han ido invirtiendo en lo que, lógicamente, al principio les decía su padre, ¿no? Que era renta variable largo plazo porque no lo vas a necesitar.
Claro.
Lógicamente, el tiempo pasa y ahora pues tienen sus objetivos, tienen sus ideas y sus ganas de hacer distintas cosas, que puede ser desde hacer un viaje o comprarse algo, un activo, o no sé si me escucharán, casarse o tener una casa, ¿no? Lógicamente, depende de cuándo vas a necesitar ese dinero, puedes asumir más o menos riesgo. Por tanto, yo, si mi hija me dice, papá, voy a necesitar dinero dentro de 6 meses, no le puedo decir, invierte en el mismo producto de renta variable que has tenido durante los últimos 10 años, ¿no?
Claro.
Tendré que decirle, invierte en un producto de corto plazo. Al fin y al cabo, estás diversificando plazos y riesgos. Y eso es clave para todos nosotros. Eso de invertir en un solo activo es jugártela.
Claro.
No voy a decir que sea tanto como ir al casino y jugarlo al rojo o al negro, pero casi. Porque si te equivocas cuando vas a necesitar el dinero, pues tienes un problema.
Efectivamente.
Entonces empieza la frustración. Pero en cualquier caso lo importante es, si somos jóvenes, ahorrar. Nunca es demasiado pronto para ahorrar y yo creo que eso, introducirlo en tu filosofía de vida, ir dedicando una parte al ahorro, te va a permitir vivir mucho mejor el día de mañana y desde luego conseguir tus objetivos, ¿no? Pero si es posible de la mano de un profesional y siempre invirtiendo en distintos tipos de activos.
Absolutamente. Bueno, pues vamos, me parece que creo que está clarísimo. Se acerca el 2025. Escuchen lo que acabamos de decir. tenedlo en cuenta todos y recordad que invertir siempre te libera. Nos vemos.
¿Qué cuento quieres hoy? ¿Te cuento uno de los míos? ¿El del farmacéutico? ¿O el de María, la abogada?
El de Ana, la arquitecta.
Vale. Eres una niña que soñaba con crear los edificios más impresionantes de la Tierra. Se pasaba el día dibujándolos. Sabía que algún día acabarían llegando a lo más alto de cada ciudad. Y que cualquier persona...
Cada profesional tiene detrás una historia increíble. Creer en ella es lo que de verdad cuenta. Banca, el banco de los profesionales.
Creemos que la sociedad actual necesita más arte y más color. Le da a la gente la oportunidad de asimilar diferentes perspectivas. Es realmente un placer pintar este cuadro, porque es una hermosa imagen para comenzar. Lo último que pintaremos es el auricular en vez del pendiente.
Using a classic and merging it with modern. This is very provoking.
Vuélvete máster de tu futuro. Obtén tu Master of Finance con doble titulación de Tulane University, Estados Unidos y de UFM, en Madrid.
Busca la plataforma más confiable para comprar y resguardar tus criptomonedas. Bitget es la número 1 en seguridad a nivel mundial. 45 millones de usuarios, más de 800 monedas y 190.000 traders elite. Cuenta con fondos de protección de 400 millones y un volumen diario de 10.000 millones de dólares. Además, también tiene un ratio de reservas 1,5x para proteger tus activos. Genera más rendimientos e ingresos pasivos en tus criptomonedas con productos de ahorros flexibles y con el copy trading. Bitget, seguridad, confianza y éxito. Haz trading inteligente, haz trading en Bitget. Regístrate hoy.
Pensamos que la economía mundial no se encamina hacia una recesión inminente y vemos señales de que nos encontramos más ante una rotación que ante un desplome. Bajo esta coyuntura, estos son los 3 factores a monitorizar en este cuarto trimestre del 2024. En primer lugar, los datos de los últimos meses indican que la inflación por fin se ha controlado en su mayor parte y que los riesgos de esta inflación del año pasado se han aplacado. En segundo lugar, vemos que la dirección está clara. Nos encaminamos hacia un ciclo de nuevos estímulos monetarios y públicos que tratarán de amortiguar los posibles baches de la economía. En este entorno, pensamos que los valores de mediana capitalización de Estados Unidos y la deuda pública de los mercados emergentes son 2 de las áreas que registrarán un buen comportamiento. Y por último, creemos que nos encontramos en la fase media final del ciclo y que, pese a la gran incógnita que supone la complejidad de los riesgos geopolíticos, lo más probable es que nos dirijamos hacia un aterrizaje suave.
¿Qué cuento quieres hoy? ¿Te cuento uno de los míos? ¿El del farmacéutico? ¿O el de María, la abogada?
El de Ana, la arquitecta.
Vale. Eres una niña que soñaba con crear los edificios más impresionantes de la Tierra. Se pasaba el día dibujándolos. Sabía que algún día acabarían llegando a lo más alto de cada ciudad. Y que cualquier persona...
Cada profesional tiene detrás una historia increíble. Creer en ella es lo que de verdad cuenta. Banca, el banco de los profesionales.
Vuélvete máster en transformar tu carrera. Obtén tu Master in Management con doble titulación de Tulane University, Estados Unidos y de UFM, en Madrid.
Ven al Torreón. Estamos en El Pardo, un espacio único en plena naturaleza. Disfruta de momentos de desconexión mientras saboreas la mejor gastronomía. Disponemos de 7 amplias terrazas y salones para todo tipo de eventos. Degusta nuestros exquisitos platos acompañados de una selecta bodega de vinos. A tu servicio, un gran parking y zona infantil. Abierto los 365 días del año. Cocina ininterrumpida desde las 10 de la mañana hasta las 12 de la noche. Haz tu reserva.
Pensamos que la economía mundial no se encamina hacia una recesión inminente y vemos señales de que nos encontramos más ante una rotación que ante un desplome. Bajo esta coyuntura, estos son los 3 factores a monitorizar en este cuarto trimestre del 2024. En primer lugar, los datos de los últimos meses indican que la inflación por fin se ha controlado en su mayor parte y que los riesgos de esta inflación del año pasado se han aplacado. En segundo lugar, vemos que la dirección está clara. Nos encaminamos hacia un ciclo de nuevos estímulos monetarios y públicos que tratarán de amortiguar los posibles baches de la economía. En este entorno, pensamos que los valores de mediana capitalización de Estados Unidos y la deuda pública de